Nepal's Election Commission ramps up preparation work, seeks public input on draft code of conduct. Catering border closure hits Nepali businesses for fifth month. Nearly 200 containers stranded as trade halts. Ancient Mithila traditions come alive in week-long celebrations. Mudcore rituals marks the start of the sacred wedding. Fresh diplomatic talks resume in Geneva over Ukraine war peace plan. US-backed peace proposal sparks debate. COP30 climate summit concludes without agreement on global fossil fuel phase-out. And Nepal finishes runners-up in the inaugural Blind Women's T20 World Cup after hard-fought final against India. Hello there, I'm Shivani Thapa Bosnet and this is NTV World Primetime News coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours NST. Now the news in detail. Nepal has spearheaded preparations for its upcoming March 5th House of Representatives elections. The Home Ministry says it is moving ahead with the purchase of new vehicles for all three national security agencies, aiming to ensure a peaceful and fear-free environment for the upcoming parliamentary elections. Many essential vehicles were destroyed during last month's Gen Z protest, and the replacement process is now in its final stage. The Finance Ministry has already approved funding for more than 260 vehicles for Nepal Police alone, with total procurement this year expected to exceed some 800 million rupees. Meanwhile, the government says 449 police officers damaged in the unrest are now back in operation, while repairs continue on remaining stations and on facilities belonging to the Armed Police Force and the National Investigation Department. Meanwhile, the country's Election Commission has released a draft code of conduct for the upcoming parliamentary elections and is now seeking public and political feedback. The draft introduces stricter rules on transparency, requiring candidates to submit detailed asset declarations at the time of filing their nomination papers. Although public officials are already required to disclose their assets, many ministers have long failed to do so without the legal time frame. Under the new proposal, candidates' asset declarations will remain confidential until the election results are finalized and may be made public only with the consent of the winning candidate. The draft also bans the use of government institutions for campaign events and prohibits distributing or wearing clothing or accessories displaying party symbols. The Commission has sent the draft to political parties and published it online. According to the newly issued timeline, nominations will be filed on 24th of January and voting will take place on 5th of March from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Meanwhile, the political parties in Nepal are filing applications with the Election Commission ahead of two major polls, the National Assembly election on January 25 and the House of Representatives election on 5th of March. The submission window closes on 26th of November, with 44 parties applying for the lower house so far and 9 for the upper house. The Commission says a draft election code of conduct has been published online for public feedback, which closes today. The final code will be issued in mid-January, while procurement and logistical preparations for both elections are already underway. Nepali businesses are facing severe disruptions as the catering border with China remains closed for the fifth consecutive month. The shutdown began after flooding destroyed a key bridge at the Nepal-China crossing in Rasua on 8th of July, halting all movement of goods. As a result, nearly 200 containers of festival merchandise, clothing, electronics, cosmetics and other supplies remain stranded at the border. Entrepreneurs say the alternative Tatopani border is operating only intermittently, and some traders have been forced to reroute shipments through the Corolla border in Mustang, where extreme cold, strict vehicle limits and long detours have already sharply increased transport costs. Customs officials report that despite the closure of Kerong, the expected rise in traffic through Tatopani has not materialized, with only 30 to 35 containers entering daily, mostly that of fruits. Nepal is now in talks with Chinese authorities to restore smooth trade flows, while business leaders warn that reopening Kerong is essential to stabilizing imports and preventing further economic strain. And right here we take a short break. We shall see you on the other side with more updates. Do stay tuned. You're with NTV World Primetime News, and further in updates from Nepal in the country's southern plains, most specifically the Madhya province. Preparations are underway for the historic Ram Janaki Bivah festival, a week-long celebration rooted in the ancient culture of Mithila. As festivities begin in Janakpur, the revered Lakshmi Narayan Mutt in nearby Motihani has started preparations for the traditional Mutt-core ritual held one day before the Bivaha Panchami. The annual festival features city processions, floral reenactments, and the symbolic Dhanush Yagya, all marking the legendary wedding of Lord Ram and Sita. According to tradition, soil for their sacred wedding altar was taken from Matihani, giving the site deep cultural and spiritual significance. Further in the country, two government-run cheese factories in the eastern district of Ilam have shut down after the state-owned Dairy Development Corporation faced mounting financial pressures. The Pashupati Nagar and Rakse factories, once key suppliers of hard cheese made from Himalayan highland milk, were unable to recover from declining sales during the COVID-19 pandemic. Their closure now threatens the livelihoods of local dairy farmers who depended on these facilities as a reliable market for their milk. Although a few government cheese plants in nearby areas remain operational, they are struggling to compete with fast-growing private producers, leading to unsold stock and delayed payments to farmers. The disruption reflects a broader global trend. Traditional dairy industries, especially in developing countries, are grappling with shifting consumer demand, supply chain pressures, and competition from private and international brands. Nepal's experience underscores how vulnerable small agricultural economies can be as the global dairy sector undergoes rapid change. In the country's Panchthar district, it continues to host its Saturday agricultural market, a weekly gathering that has run unchanged for 30 years, where hundreds of farmers sell fresh local produce. Despite its long history and importance for rural livelihoods, the market has seen little improvement in infrastructure or facilities. Such weekly markets are common across rural Nepal, serving as vital economic and social hubs in regions where formal retail systems remain limited. The situation in Pasthar highlights how traditional marketplaces, much like in the other developing countries, remain essential for farmers even as modernization efforts progress slowly. At a time when marriage is almost becoming a myth in the Western world, the practice of child marriage is still rampant in some parts of Nepal. Far western district of Kailali serves as an example where a number of teenage girls become mothers before the age of 20. The deep-rooted trend possesses not only serious health risks but also pushes the neonatal to psychological trauma. A report by Rodina Rai.
In Nepal, child marriage is a long-standing culture that has been hindering girls' access to education and severely affecting their health and overall well-being. Child marriage is a criminal offense in Nepal, and the legal age for tying the knot is 20 years. However, this legal provision often remains only on paper. The 2021 census indicates that Sudur Paschim province of the country has alarming child marriage rate of 29.1%. Meanwhile, the Kailali Health Office reports 881 women gave birth before the age of 20 in just the first 7 months of the previous fiscal year, while 305 teenage girls delivered babies, highlighting that child marriage remains deeply entrenched due to lack of awareness and prevailing social norms. While 305 teenage girls delivered babies, highlighting that child marriage remains deeply entrenched due to lack of awareness and prevailing social norms. Data of the last 25 years show that Nepal has made a significant achievement, decreasing it by 58%. The prevalence of child marriage before the age of 18 among girls in Nepal was approximately 33% as of 2019 data, a decrease from 58% in 1994. More recent data from 2022 indicates a slight increase to around 35% of women aged 20 to 24 first married by age 18. But in Kailali, the number of teenage girls giving birth before the age of 20 is on the rise, and the traditional practice of home deliveries has yet to disappear. Medical experts warn premature pregnancy poses significant health risk for both mothers and infants.
आमालाई पर्ने असर भनेको चाहिँ अब छिटै विवाह भयो, छिटै बच्चा पाएपछि उहाँहरुको क्यारियर अवरुद्ध हुने अनि उहाँहरुको चाहिँ एउटा सेल्फ स्टिम भनौं न आत्मबल कमजोर हुने, छिटै उमेरमा एउटा बच्चा पाउनुको मतलब उहाँले पछि फेरि धेरै बच्चा पाउन सक्ने, त्यसले गर्दा उहाँहरुको स्वास्थ्यमा जोखिम हुन सक्ने, उहाँहरुले आर्थिक उपार्जन गर्न नसक्ने,
leading to increased incidences of severe health complications and mortality. The persistence of child marriage, teenage pregnancy, and home deliveries highlights gaps in public awareness, limited education, and inadequate access to healthcare services.
We will be looking into the updates from across the globe when we return from this short break. In news hitting the international headlines, fresh diplomatic talks on the future of the war in Ukraine are underway in Geneva, with delegations from the United States, Ukraine, and European allies meeting to review a new 28-point peace proposal backed by U.S. President Donald Trump. Washington acknowledges it drafted the plan, which critics say leans heavily in Moscow's favor. U.S. senators claim Secretary of State Marco Rubio even described the document as resembling a Russian wish list. Rubio says the proposal includes input from Russia, but also incorporates earlier and ongoing feedback from Ukraine, while Trump insists it is not a final offer. Ukraine's allies have pushed back sharply as President Volodymyr Zelensky warns the country is facing one of the most difficult moments in their history. Negotiations are expected to continue in the coming days. The COP30 climate summit in Belém concluded without agreement on a global roadmap to phase out fossil fuels. More than 80 nations pushed for a clear exit from oil, gas and coal, but major producers including China, Russia, Saudi Arabia and Iran blocked the proposal. Brazil's President Lula da Silva called the outcome a win for multilateralism, while Colombia and the European Union have expressed disappointment. The final declaration emphasizes voluntary climate action and plans to triple adaptation funding for developing nations by 2035. The summit also saw record indigenous participation, mass demonstrations, and a fire in the pavilion area that forced evacuations, though its cause remains unknown. Meanwhile, Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has revived his push for a global roadmap to phase out fossil fuels, bringing high political pressure to UN climate talks in Belém. Lula arrived late in the summit to energize negotiations after Brazil released a draft pact and urged delegates to work through the night in hopes of securing an agreement 2 days before COP30 was set to end. Calling this the COP of truth, Lula had insisted the world must begin planning life beyond oil, coal and gas, while allowing each country to move at its own pace. But deep divisions remained. More than 80 nations supported a fossil fuel exit plan opposed by major oil producers. Developing countries are also, or in fact, did demand far more climate financing than the US $300 billion per year pledged at COP29, an amount they said fell far short of urgent needs. The European Union, facing economic stress, or strain rather, says it cannot increase adaptation funding and is resisting efforts by China and others to challenge its carbon border tax. A new negotiating text was expected, with the talks is likely to stretch past Friday's deadline. Delegates housed on cruise ships have already been told to vacate by Saturday. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has met South African President Cyril Ramaphosa in Johannesburg on the sidelines of the G20 summit. The bilateral meeting highlighted the long-standing friendship between the two nations and their commitment to deepen cooperation across trade, investment, defense and cultural exchange. Both leaders reviewed international and bilateral relations, emphasizing the need to strengthen strategic partnerships to tackle emerging global challenges collectively. Japan faces a potential loss of over 2 trillion yen in Chinese tourist spending amid escalating diplomatic tension with China, following Prime Minister Sanei Takaichi's recent remarks on Taiwan, according to Hideo Kumano, the chief economist at the Daiichi Life Research Institute. China's foreign ministry and its consulates in Japan have advised citizens to avoid travel to Japan, while airlines including China Southern, China Eastern and Air China are offering refunds and rescheduling for flights through the end of December. Kumano warns that prolonged tension could severely impact Japan's tourism-dependent regions, further straining local economies. Meanwhile, Japan's recently approved 21.3 trillion yen fiscal stimulus intended to boost the economy risks exacerbating inflation and weakening the yen, potentially slowing growth instead of supporting it. As long-term interest rates rise, economists caution that relying on government bonds to cover the spending gap may intensify economic challenges, compounding the effects of declining tourist revenue. Lined up ahead is a short break yet again. Stay tuned. We will be right back. You're with NTV World Primetime News. The 39th joint patrol by the Chinese and Vietnamese navies in the Beibu Gulf concluded Thursday after 2 days of sea covering over 330 nautical miles. Both navies deployed 2 ships each, including China's guided missile frigate Guanyan and Type 056A corvette Aber. The fleet patrolled along the maritime border, monitoring security at sea and in the air. On Thursday, crews conducted a joint search and rescue drill simulating fishing vessels in distress, enhancing coordination and emergency response in complex scenarios. Since signing the 2005 Joint Patrol Agreement, China and Vietnam have carried out 38 patrols, strengthening communication, deepening cooperation, and building strategic trust in maintaining maritime security in the Beibu Gulf. At a rehabilitation center in Kiev, former soldier Dmytro Gorodinsky dances to the funky 1970s hit La Freak, learning to move again after losing his eyesight in a Russian drone attack 5 months ago. Like many newly blinded veterans, Gorodinsky faces challenges adjusting to daily life, from reading Braille to using his phone. For others, like Mykola Kazyuk and Vladislav Yeschenko, independence means mastering everyday tasks, from baking cupcakes to navigating public transport, despite sudden life-changing injuries. Ukraine's healthcare system, strained by war, is struggling to support the visually impaired. In Russia, environmental activism is growing increasingly risky. Irina Kurisheva, aged 62, returned to Moscow's Lusiny Ostrov National Park to monitor construction of a highway months after being fined for protesting the project. The road, planned to ease congestion and access new housing, cuts through protected forest land despite laws prohibiting such construction. Activists say authorities are bending regulations to favor developers, while dissenting voices face fines, arrests, or harsher penalties. Legal experts warn that environmental defenders are operating in an increasingly hostile environment, with decisions driven by regional authorities and little recourse through the courts. Time now we check out the latest from the sporting arena. In the sporting headliner of the hour, Nepal has finished as the first runners-up in the inaugural Blind Women's T20 World Cup after a competitive final against India in Colombo of Sri Lanka. Batting first, Nepal set a target of 114 runs for 5 wickets in the full 20 overs. India successfully chased the 115-run target in just 12 overs, ending at 117 for 3, led by Phula Soren's quick 44 off 27 balls. Nepal's Sarita Ghimire contributed a solid 35 runs from 38 deliveries. The match used a special classic wide ball with bearings inside, helping visually impaired batters track its movement. 6 nations, Nepal, India, Australia, Pakistan, Sri Lanka and the United States participated, with each team required to field 4 completely blind players among the 11. The tournament marks a major step forward for the visibility and growth of blind cricket on the global stage. The annual Hong Kong Cross Harbour Race took place today morning, drawing hundreds of swimmers to the chilly waters between Wan Chai and Sim Sa Shui. Hong Kong team representatives claimed top honours, with Kiet Sin winning the men's race in 17 minutes 48 seconds and Nip Shejin taking the women's title in 19 minutes 18 seconds. Olympic silver medalist and National Games champion Siobhan Hoge made her cross-harbour debut, finishing just 30 seconds behind Nip in second place. Despite strong waves and close competition, the event celebrated endurance, family participation and a return after last year's typhoon cancellations. And before winding up, a quick recap of the headliners of the hour. Nepal's Election Commission ramps up preparation work, seeks public input on draft code of conduct. Catering border closure hits Nepali businesses for the fifth month. Nearly 200 containers stranded as trade halts. Ancient Mithila traditions come alive in week-long celebrations. Matkor ritual marks the start of the sacred wedding. French diplomatic talks resume in Geneva over Ukraine war peace plan. US-backed peace proposal sparks debate. COP30 climate summit concludes without agreement on global fossil fuel phase-out. And Nepal finishes runners-up in inaugural blind women's T20 World Cup after hard-fought final against India. Well, that's all from NTV World Primetime News. We will see you with our next bulletin at 10 p.m. with the News Hour. Do join us through our social media. You can also get the latest updates from our official website, nepaltelevision.com. I'm Shivani Thapa Bosnet. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful evening.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu, Public Service Broadcasting PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
This is NTV World, facts that speak, insights that matter.
Telling the stories of a changing planet. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Exploring the heartbeat of Nepali creativity. This is NTV World.
The power of story shaped by technology. NTV World.
Unearthing Nepal's hidden heritage. Discovering the timeless Nepal. Telling stories that endure across centuries. Where culture breathes, stories bloom.
Where the world moves, we make a sense of it. NTV World.
Taste of Nepal. Every recipe, every flavor tells the story.
Journalism in the digital age. Fast, focused, verified.
Stories hold power. Stories reflecting life. Stories of the hinterlands.
Reporting for Public Service Broadcasting.
Reporting for NTV World.
This is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour.
This is NTV World.
Welcome to Primetime News.
One story at a time.
Crossing borders, connecting voices, where Nepal meets the world in dialogue. This is NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Voices that connect Nepal to the world, bringing perspective, region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by. Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
AI brings in a lot of augmentation and efficiency gains, which will not necessarily replace the human, but produce a lot more efficient human, almost like a superhuman, where the person will be able to do more jobs in less amount of time. And that efficiency gains could impact overall economic output, which could then generate a lot more new kind of jobs.
Will they be a misfit in near future?
More and more people should learn how to use some of these tools, because if you don't use it, I don't know if misfit is the word, but you will be left behind.
Nepal is a country well known for the world's highest peak, Mount Everest, and the birthplace of Lord Buddha, the pioneer of peace. This is a country equally graced by the beauty of natural scenery and cultural riches. Unity in diversity, immense tolerance, and confluence of coexistence, Nepal is a country of its own uniqueness. Lord Buddha, the pioneer of non-violence, tolerance and peace, was born on the full moon day in Lumbini in 623 BC. Peace, compassion, mercy, tolerance and salvation are the perennial parts of Buddhism that lead or have been leading mankind to complete freedom and welfare of all humankind. Lord Buddha taught the world to engage more on spiritual contemplation following those paths. Buddhism has indeed become a new way to most sought peace and prosperity. Thus, Lumbini has been growing into a sacred destination not only for Buddhists but also for peace lovers and spiritual practitioners. The life story and its supporting remnants related to the childhood life of Prince Siddhartha Gautam can still be seen and heard in Kapilvastu. The sacred historical bits and pieces attached to King Suddhodana, the father of Lord Buddha, which are of archaeological significance, will speak of Kapilvastu as an open museum. The remnant of eastern gate of the compound of King Suddhodana's palace was the main gate to the premises. You can witness here the entrance gates in all four directions, and indeed countless remains lying on your left and right, and back and front, bearing historical significance. In ancient time, the area was even known as Kapilvastu as today it is, but later the place was also called Ilalakot. According to Buddhist books and literature, Devdaha in Rupanderi district was homeland of Lord Buddha's maternal uncle and father-in-law as well. The bricks used to build homes are still lying plenty scattered there, and to your wonder, some bricks even weigh 12 kilograms. There is another place called Kudan, which is within the district headquarters of Taulihawa. And legend has that here, King Suddhodana encountered his son Siddhartha for the first time after the latter was enlightened to Buddha. This place was also called Nigrodhara, which is now surrounded by the remnants of stupas. Similarly, this was the very place where Buddha's stepmother, Gautami Prajapati, handed monk's dress over to Lord Buddha. Likewise, Ramgram in Navalparasi district is the place where a stupa of Lord Buddha's cool bone was built after his parinirvana demise. Excavation is still undergoing in this place. Kapilvastu, Lumbini, Ramgram and Devda are therefore indelible places highly attached to the life of Lord Buddha. Kapilvastu was the kingdom of Sakya, Lord Buddha's clan, whereas Ramgram and Devda were of Koliyas. And the two states were bordered by Rohini River, some 27 kilometers east. To Kapilvastu was Lumbini, which was at that time densely cocooned by sal and ashok trees and was popularly known as Sacred Garden. Buddhist tales say once when Buddha's mother Mayadevi was journeying to her parental home, Mayadevi, she experienced delivery symptoms. Gripping a branch of a tree, she gave birth to Prince Siddhartha. According to some old Buddhist literature, the birth of Prince Siddhartha bore several symptoms and well indicated that the newborn baby was not a common birth, but a birth of a dignified, spiritual, and an incarnate. Legend has that the newborn baby walked 7 steps far immediately after it was off mother's womb. Moreover, the new baby uttered the following revelations: I would be the first among the mortals to go beyond passing through this worldly web. This is my last birth. Rebirth never happens with me again. Prince Siddhartha lived an affluent life of 29 years at Kapilvastu Palace. But when he tried to penetrate and see close to the eternal truth of life, then he started contemplating on life. Why does a man become old? Why does he suffer from different diseases? Why does he die? These were the pertinent questions that haunted him most. Driven by divine spirit to find ultimate truth, he decided to renounce royal life. One night, he left his family, friends, and palace to seek salvation and eternal truth. Roaming several days, he reached Bodh Gaya of India, and there under a peepal tree, he had gone for meditation and became Buddha. He gave his first religious preaching in Sarnath in Varanasi, India. He talked about eternal truth, human duty, peace, and the path of salvation there, and earned a number of followers. Buddha underwent parinirvana, death, at the age of 80 in Kushinagar. Addressing his followers just before his parinirvana, Lord Buddha said, my devotees will visit and throng round the places where I took birth, where I was enlightened, where I first delivered my preaching, and where I got parinirvana. So, Lumbini, saturated by Lord Buddha's peace-loaded messages for over ages, has been the most sacred religious sites for many, if not only for Buddhists. Today, the Buddhists and the followers of Buddhism and peace lovers of the world over visit Lumbini to pay homage to Lord Buddha and feel and get familiar to his brainchild, peace. King Ashoka, a staunch supporter of Buddha, visited Lumbini in 249 BC and built a pillar quite near to Buddha's nativity site. The Ashoka pillar bears an inscription that says, "Buddha was born here." Lumbini is not only an attractive tourism hub today, but it's also a life state of historical and archaeological significance. To preserve Lumbini, the Government of Nepal and Japan Buddhist Association have jointly launched the excavation since 1992. Lumbini had undergone negligence of both government and non-government entities for centuries. Planned and coordinated effort began only in 1953. The United Nations appointed famous Japanese professor and engineer Kenjo Tange to make a master plan for the development of Lumbini. Government of Nepal accepted the proposed master plan in 1978. To develop Lumbini according to the master plan, Government of Nepal established Lumbini Development Fund in 1985. According to the master plan, Lumbini Development Region has been divided into 3 zones. In the meantime, several phases of development have also been adopted. In first zone comes Sacred Garden. Second, Zone of Stupas. And in third comes New Lumbini Village. It is expected that the Sacred Garden will create a kind of aura, ensuring peaceful ambience, natural serenity, and religious sacredness to its visitors, in which they can feel deep Lord Buddha's message of peace and compassion. The very core of Lumbini Garden is the nativity site of Buddha. The plain bas relief of Maya Devi, which is supposed to be about 17 to 1800 years old, and depicts the nativity scene, has been put in the newly renovated temple. Near the temple lies Sakya Kund, sacred pond, where Maya Devi was supposed to have taken bath before giving birth to Buddha. Zone of Stupas is another important feature of Lumbini Master Plan, within which territory countries, international associations, and devotees of the world over can build stupas of their own in dedication to Lord Buddha. Moreover, the zone of stupas has been divided into 2. In the western part, the followers of Mahayana sect are building their stupas, whereas eastern part is dominated by Theravada sect. This zone of stupas has 41 geographic subdivisions in which various countries, organizations, and devotees have been building chotens, monasteries and stupas respectively. With a view to carry study and research on Buddhism and its inherent philosophy, a cultural studies center has been set up in Lumbini. The study center has museum, library and archives in which you can find Buddhism-related books, literature arts, and other valuable materials. Similarly, Lumbini International Research Center has been set up, which provides materials and other needed support to researchers of other religion, philosophy, and culture. There is also a library for those who want to study about peace and religion. Another major attraction of Lumbini is its eternal flame, which is placed in Shanti Kunj Peace Arbor. The flame was ignited on the occasion of the International Peace Year in 1985. The flame can be considered as bold symbol to keep Lord Buddha's peace messages alive. Lumbini village is the exterior part of Lumbini Master Plan, where various facilities of lodging and fooding for the visitors are catered in depending on their capacities. There are a number of cheap and affordable rest houses to moderate ones and luxury hotels laced by all modern amenities. A peace stupa has been built in the northern side of Lumbini. It is the tallest stupa in the area. The story of the greatness of Lord Buddha's birthplace, Lumbini, is not an imagined story of a next world. Lumbini, in fact, is the most sacred place which can emanate peace, friendship, kindness, compassion, and feeling of coexistence to all people of all ages. This is a destination to inward peace, a holy place for enlightenment. Indeed, the sacredness of Lumbini existed in the past too. It is today too, and it will be tomorrow too.
AI brings in a lot of augmentation and efficiency gains, which will not necessarily replace the human, but produce a lot more efficient human, almost like a superhuman, where the person will be able to do more jobs in less amount of time. And that efficiency gains could impact overall economic output, which could then generate a lot more new kind of jobs.
Will they be a misfit in near future?
More and more people should learn how to use some of these tools, because if you don't use it, I don't know if misfit is the word, but you will be left behind.
Welcome to Declassified Beyond the Brief with me, Devendra Subedi. In this episode of Declassified, I am speaking to a youth whose journey from an aspiring management student to a leader, that too of a Gen Z movement, created headlines across the globe. Miraj Dhungana is one of the founders of a Gen Z movement in Nepal that was successful in making its voices heard in Nepal with unprecedented political changes in the country. In this episode, we declassify, we try to explore the Gen Z movement, the beginning and the achievements so far. Is there a risk of the movement and the gains disintegrating with the recent division and differences within the team? We try to find the answers. Welcome to the show, Miraj.
Thank you so much.
How it has been so far after the Gen Z movement, Miraj?
Certainly the life I had previously had is not the same. I've had to make some lifestyle changes because this is something that was unprecedented, as you said. So yeah, things have been very different. Yeah.
Different in what sense? Your personal daily life or your overall management of yourself? Where did you find the basic changes happening in your life?
Yeah, I think personally also my life has changed. I'm not able to, wander in the streets as I used to before. And the government, the country, has also seen a massive change. That in turn has also changed me personally and in many other aspects.
You must be happy because that's what you fought for, that's what you initiated.
Yes, happy in a way, yes.
Now, you are the crush of the nation right now. Does that compliment you? How does it feel when you hear people saying, hey, he's the crush of the nation?
I mean, it was something I felt good about it first, but this has happened for quite a few
times earlier, but this time it's the nation that is crushing for you.
It feels good, but I am getting used to it, to be very honest.
Okay. Let's start our conversation with the Gen Z movement, an overview of the Gen Z movement that you initiated initially. Was the September 8th incident, what happened in Nepal, was that a movement or a protest or a revolution? What word would you say defines that day particularly?
So I would say the protest on the 8th incident was a protest.
Okay.
We're fighting against a system that was so, into the corruption, and we're actually fighting for the crippled government, the bad governance, the dissatisfaction we had for decades, the times we had been deceived. We were promised one thing and we were not delivered, and I think the frustration was building up. Young people decided to come out together, to fight for what is right for the country, to fight for their rights. So the 8th day incident was a protest. Then the 9th was, I think, a mass movement because people saw young kids getting killed mercilessly. They were shot on the chest, shot on the head, So it was a very bloody incident that happened on the 8th. And then I think people from all the age groups, they came out because they could not take it, They could not take it.
We have heard publicly you and your fellow leaders of the Gen Z movement disowning the 9th September incidents and the vandalism that happened during the course. Do you mean to say that even the next day, that is the 9th of September, what happened, that was a sporadic let's say, people's chain reaction to the events that happened on the...
It was certainly a chain reaction, I would say so, but I am not disowning it, and I don't think other people, other Gen Zs were leading it. I don't think they were disowning it either.
You mean to say you own the incidents that happened on the 9th of September?
Yes, we collectively own the incident. We don't disown it.
That's a pretty strong statement that you have made because in some, let's say, statements from the Gen Z leaders from various let's say, groups earlier, they said that was not our movement on the second day. Tell us more about, I just asked about the movement itself. Now tell me something about the origin. As far as I have heard and read, heard you as well in some of the other statements while you're making in other shows, that you were the one who initiated the movement somewhere in a digital platform.
Okay, what I would say is I was maybe one of the first and prominent voices to make people aware, to let them know, maybe the first whistleblower about this protest. Yes, and my voice was very prominent. I think I was very widely heard, and a lot of people got involved into this movement because of all the content, all the things, all the voices I was putting out. So yeah, I think the origin, when we go to the origin, I think people had dissatisfaction with the government. We had been deceived multiple times. Our voices were not heard, and the country was in a very bad state. People had a very low standard living. We still have a low standard of living. Collectively, we have low standard of living compared to other countries who have, the resources, but we are not able to utilize these resources as much as we wanted to. The government was not paying attention, and I think about the origin, I think previously people were able to, voice their dissatisfaction about the government through social media platforms. You had so much anger, but you could always put it on social media, and you could vent something out.
Okay.
But when government decided to be, take some autocratic action, like banning multiple social media platforms, I think that was the last thread, the final thread. When that broke, all the hell loose broke. People were now willing to come to the streets.
So correct me if I'm wrong. So you mean to say that the youth generation's voice was not heard, but for those who had been running the established institutions in this country, they said we didn't hear their voice at all. So you mean to say that the social media platforms, the digital landscape that the youths normally use, that was the platform where the voices were, and they did not take it seriously earlier. That's where the triggered, as you said, the last thread was the banning of the social media that triggered.
Yeah, it was the final thread, yes. But I wouldn't say this was the origin of it. The dissatisfaction with the government, the poverty, the lack of employment in our country. I think these things were the contributing factors. Now people had this raise, the frustration inside them, and the social media platform banning was the final thread that set everybody free.
Okay. Were you very popular in social media platforms, like you have plenty of followers?
No, not at all.
How was that widely heard thing happened?
So no, not at all. So what happened is, I was not so popular, but I was in a way politically aware. For my age, I think I was politically aware. So I started making videos about what was the cancer behind the system. What was causing the failing government, the unstable government. We had government collapsing every 8-12 months. We didn't have a permanent government. So I was pointing out what was causing this, why young people of our age had to leave the country, why the massive brain drain, and why families had to be separated from their children. They had to go abroad to earn a living. So these were the things I was constantly voicing before 2-3 days of the protest. And I think people resonated with it, and I think because of it, they wanted to come, they decided to come. So yeah, I believe that my voices did make a difference and invited people to participate in this, a movement that would
Can I call it the awakening of a generation?
Yes.
That was an awakening of a generation.
I wouldn't even call it the awakening of a generation. I would call it the awakening of Nepali citizens.
Okay.
Not only the Gen Zs.
You have been blamed of being the person who filed an application at the district administration office to organize the protest on that particular day, on the 8th of September. So, being that one, we didn't see you in the protest. You were not there.
No.
I have heard you explaining these things, but to our viewers and to all others, can you explain that particular day and your absence?
So the thing is, I was not the one who filed the application for the protest. I was not the one. And the second thing is, I'm actually really tired of explaining this. Now, we had multiple groups. Let me make this very short. We had multiple groups, and one of the groups, they had some kind of conflict with me. And they decided that they would hold play card against me, calling me out. Okay. After all I tried to do, all the awareness and everything. After all I did, they were not in favor of me. But I did have other groups. I did have my other friends go to the protest. So, and the thing is, we didn't think that this would happen in 28 hours. This was historic. We didn't think this would happen in 28 hours, and I was planning to go the second day, but everything happened so quick.
Were you seeing this movement being as successful as it happened? Or you hadn't imagined this would be...
No, this was very unprecedented, to be very honest. But we did make history, and that is something.
All right. You didn't only make history, you became inspiration to the world as well. How does it feel now?
I wouldn't say I am the inspiration behind it. I think the whole of Nepal, the Nepali citizens, they are the inspiration behind it. It is, I think we held the record for the fastest revolution. That is something. And I know us Nepalis, we have got it in us. And it is very inspiring, yes, to the world.
My last question in this segment, why change? You have said a few things earlier. All right. What inspired the whole generation that was otherwise very indifferent to politics? You said you were aware politically. But what we find, most of the youths are very indifferent towards politics, the socio-political affairs. Why this change?
How I would like to say it is, there are two different kinds of people in a crowd. One are the frustrated ones in the crowd, and one are the politically conscious ones in the crowd, in the protest crowd. Now, frustration is something that can be shared by everyone. The frustration with the government. You see, jobs in the country, bad living standard, no well-paying jobs, and all these things. So you see this, and you see government doing nothing about it. They promised us the world, they gave us nothing.
Is it not ourselves who chose these leaders earlier to govern us?
It is us who chose the leaders, yes. We chose the leaders on the basis of the promises they made. They promised that they would deliver, but they didn't.
So it's the lack of delivery and only promises, that's where you're concerned.
Yes, lack of delivery.
In the second part of the conversation now, we talk about the achievements of the movement. How far, Mirza, have been your demands been materialized so far? You have had a set of demands earlier. Now, if you have to just, let's say, categorically break it down, how many demands have been met so far?
The primary agendas have not been fulfilled. We are hopeful about the government that they are going to be fulfilled, but the primary ones, the agenda for which we fought, have not been heard, have not been addressed. But we are very hopeful of the government.
Now, this brings me to the other question. This is a government you people have chosen to lead.
Yes.
Is the change in government the only solution to deliver? Or there should be a change in the system as well? The bureaucracy, let's say, that up to the grassroots level, the chain that is governing this system.
Definitely, the change has to be within the system. People, if the system is good, if the system is very strong, it is going to bind people. It is not going to let people to do any mishaps, do any corruption of any sort. But if the system is weak, it cannot bind people to the law or anything, no accountability at all. So I believe that it is the system what we are trying to change, and it is the system what we should change.
These are some big fundamental changes that
yes.
for that. Can you just, let's say, give us your current thought on the Constitution? Is it where your fundamental demands are not being met because of the current Constitution?
Yes, of course, it is because of the Constitution, yes.
So, do you see the Constitution being changed by this government, or how do you see this coming possible?
So there are multiple ways of making our agendas, of addressing our agendas. We have tried through this government to try to change, to make constitutional reforms where there needs to be for a better Nepal. We have tried it. Now I think now we want to call every stakeholder of this movement to come for a consensus. We call every party, the government, I want to be very specific about the kind of Gen Zs we want to invite. We want to invite educated, politically aware Gen Zs. Not everyone. You cannot let a truck driver run a plane. You have to have a very capable Gen Zs. Not every Gen Z. We have to be very specific about that. So we want to have a consensus and come to an agreement that these are the very necessary constitutional reforms that has to be done, that has to be implemented, or the lives lost are going to be of no use. So we have to be very serious about it.
With the differences, different multiple groups coming up in the Gen Z circuit itself. And initially also, as per your explanation here, some were against you. That's why, to defame you, placards were being displayed there. So do you think with these sort of things going on within yourself, is it going to happen? Is this hard-fought achievement or the change going to be materialized?
Of course, yes. It is going to happen. It is going to happen, and it is upon people. It is upon people for whom they choose. They have to have this kind of critical judgment so that they are able to select not somebody who can speak. Everybody, salespeople are very much able to speak, but do they have content inside them or not? Are they politically aware? Are they educated? Do they understand how a country runs? People, us, we need to select these people, even from the Gen Zs, not everybody.
Having said that again, yes, will there be another tussle among your... Now we have heard plenty of groups have emerged in the Gen Z movement itself. Will there be another tussle within yourself to select those who are politically aware and those who are not?
I don't think there's going to be any sort of that serious tussle, to be very honest, because somebody, as I said, the criteria is somebody who is educated and somebody who is very politically aware, somebody who knows how to run a country. I think they and us, our fragment, Miraj Rungana's fragment, which is Gari Khanadeo, we have a very similar agendas. And these are the core ones that are going to change this country for better. So I think if people of the criteria I said, if they come forth, I think they are going to have a very similar agenda to us. There's going to be no argument or no tussle at all. Me being 25 years old, my parents used to say, you need to go abroad. There's nothing here. But I never wanted to leave my country. But I'm forced to, because there are no good paying jobs for somebody who is educated and somebody who can actually contribute to the economy. There's nothing. So our motto with this initiative is, so Gari Khanadeo in English translates to, let us live and work in our own country. So this is our basic motto.
So that's a campaign you're launching?
Yeah, that is a campaign we're launching, and we're very concerned about this massive scale brain drain. Population is a limited resource for a country as small as us. So that is a very concerning issue.
Now this takes me back to your earlier statement saying we trust the people, we want the people to make the change. So does that mean that you are eyeing for the next election and you trust the people that they would be now, they are, as you said, they have also awakened now and they will choose the right leader, the right people to run this country, and you would go and take part in the election?
No, election, we are not looking at election. We're not thinking about it. We're not looking at election. We want to do these things before the election. I know an election is very necessary to give a country, an international legitimacy. Yes, we're not against it, but these agendas of ours, these agenda of Nepali people have to be addressed before the election.
Can you be specific on those agendas?
There's a quite long list of agendas, but
let's talk about the fundamental ones.
Okay, the fundamental ones are, so we have a very unstable government. The government falls in 8 to 12 months. So maybe that is the reason why we are falling short in development and opportunities. So we want a very stable government So either that be a directly elected PM system or any system that would guarantee us stability. So we are pushing for a direct elect Prime Minister system, and we are yet to have a national level conference or discussion of a sort.
Because within this constitution, that's not possible right now.
It seems like it, but politics, as far as I've known, you can come out with solutions.
There can be solutions,
there can be solutions, yes.
Or interim setups, or,
yes.
in case of a compromised setup, there
yes.
can be. It is a big ask. You have to bring every let's say stakeholders, including the established political parties.
Yeah, we're going to do that.
You're confident about it?
Yes.
Have you had an interaction with the leaders of political parties of late?
No, I've had indirect discussion with them, yes. Because we have to come to a conclusion. We cannot let, so many people have lost their lives now. We cannot let it go to waste and, be prepared for the elections. It cannot, it is not ethical. My ethics does not give me to do that. So it has to be done before election, because nothing is guaranteed.
It sounds as if, with the conversation that we are having, it's just the beginning of the awakening that we are talking about. Yes. It's a long road ahead.
It is. Okay, let us be more optimistic. I hope it is not a long way ahead. And I am in a way very confident that we can do this very soon.
Alright, let's see how soon your agendas and the fundamental changes that you want would be materialized. In this part of the conversation, we talk about the envisioned future of this country. Well, Miraz, the desire to see a prosperous, booming Nepal, is it going to be a reality soon?
I think it is actually going to be reality very soon. Because you see, before this protest, before this movement, young people were not as politically literate as they are today. It has been 53, 54 days today. And I see, I see a lot of people hanging around, reading the constitution and things as such, reading news. I think the prosperous future is very near.
The multiple groups that have emerged
yes.
in your group, and initially they had said they are not interested in leading this, the government or going into the government. Now, what I have read so far is that there are multiple groups coming. Some are going to the Election Commission to register parties, some have already announced it, and they are bidding for the next election as well. Does it not contradict with the initial version of the Genji leaders who said they would not prefer to go and lead, they would leave it to the experts?
So, I cannot answer for everybody that were taking part in leading the movement. I can only answer for myself, and I think I've stood with my stance. I have stood with my stance. Yes, some have decided that they would directly go into the elections. I do not agree with them. I don't think that is something that my conscience would morally allow me to do. And it is, in a way, it is very sad that some of these leaders decided to be very open for elections, but we do not have the similar idea. We are not seeking for elections, we are seeking for our agendas to be, addressed. That is the first priority for us, and that is going to happen.
You're confident?
Yes, that is going to happen. That has to happen. There's no way around it.
What plans, let's say, Miraz Dhongana gets a chance to lead this country now,
yes.
Let's say,
yes.
or make his influence to lead this country. What exact changes would you make in this country, in the system of governance, immediately?
So the first thing I would do is I would make sure the government is stable. Either that would be by, changing the system of government we have, maybe direct elect, or maybe something else. We can have discussion about this, but we want a government that stays its complete term. So first,
people elected government that's stable, right?
Yes, yes. People elected government that is stable. Stability is the number one step. Now second is we are going to do substantial economical economical, we are going to have substantial economical progress. I think if people are prosperous, they don't need to go to some foreign country and be a second-class citizen there. The second thing is economic enhancement of the country. We have, we have 42,000 megawatt of potential in hydropower, and if we are able to realize the potential we can have millions, hundreds of millions of dollars annually. That is a lot of revenue, a big chunk of our budget. We are yet to add it to our budget, and we can do very good in tourism too. Spiritual tourism, adventure tourism, a lot of things. Mountain climbing and everything. So these are very few things. If we do another segment, I could come up with the whole potential Nepal has. We are very filled with resources. Just the government has to be chosen correctly. Government has
so
to be
the onus
responsible.
is on the people again to choose the right people.
No, I would not say that is the case. I would say the leaders have changed their word after coming to power. The system does not bind people to stay inside.
Is there a guarantee that Miraz Dhungana, after being elected, would not change his words?
Hang me if I do.
At least Miraz
has. Hang me if I do.
But you can't speak for everyone. But for yours,
yes,
your
for
case,
me, I can, yes.
Okay, that's a very strong thing you are saying. So you're very committed to what you should say. The leaders should be like that, and the people should be aware to choose that type of leaders who do not change when they come to ask for the vote and when they reach in power. All right, very interesting conversation we are having with Miraz Dhungana here. In the last part hour or so, we talk about democracy and the future of political parties, because the Gen Z leaders and the Gen Z movement has often been blamed of attacking them. Let's see what their or Miraz's view is on that. Miraz, is the system that you people are advocating democracy without parties or with parties, or what sort of system you are advocating?
No, I think since we are advocating for democracy, there is in no way we are attacking the multi-party system. The country needs to have option about the leadership they want to bring. So we're not against parties.
So parties will be part of this system when the country goes into
Yes, they have to be, yes.
What if?
Yes.
I really also asked, did you have any interaction with the party? What if they reject your agenda?
Let's be hopeful. They agree for the consensus. If they don't, we have plan A, plan B, plan C. And if they don't, I think I'll...
Can you reveal your plan B and
I'm
C?
so sorry, I cannot. These are very discreet, these are classified. This is so sad.
We cannot declassify them.
Declassified, no. So sorry.
Very interestingly, there is a plan B and plan C as well in place. But you're talking about the stable government. That has been repeatedly in your rhetoric so far. Will that lead to the stable government? If you go to plan B, plan C again, this government doesn't work, let's change it. Now this also didn't work, let's change the other one. Does that address the same thing that you said?
No. The thing is a stable government in terms of governance system. Right now we have a parliamentary system where the PM is elected, and party, if they don't bring majority, they collectively make a government. So that is what is happening right now, and that does not give us a stable government. We are against it. We are trying to change the system where you have to have a coalition, and there's always some party pulling the plug and the government collapsing again. We don't want that. We want a government to complete its term of 4 years and 5 years.
Even in this constitution and the current system, that's possible given that the party secures a majority.
Yes.
It's not impossible even within the constitution. So you mean to say that either a party, you get a majority and govern, otherwise you don't govern. Is it that what you're saying? To govern, you must have a majority, otherwise you can't.
So we are still in discussion about the nitty-gritty of it. So we have not come to a conclusion, we have not finalized it, but what we have finalized it is we are done with a system that gives us an unstable government. We want a stable government, and we are working on a system that is going to give us a stable government.
Ultimately, it's the people who give the mandate in a democracy.
Yes.
Are you ready for that?
Of course.
But as you said, you need some fundamental changes before that.
Yes.
And that's going to happen.
That is going to happen.
So definitely you couldn't, let's say, explain to us your plan B and C, but you can explain to us how do you see that happening with all the stakeholders coming together?
What is happening is everybody is calling themselves a stakeholder. Now, as I said earlier, you cannot possibly ask a truck driver to drive an airplane. That cannot happen. You know, it is going to crash. So, likewise,
so how would the people identify whether that's a truck driver or an airplane pilot?
Well, maybe we have a debate, a televised debate or something. I cannot disclose exactly what we're planning to do, but that is going to happen. Is what I can assure you. That is going to happen. So that is going to happen by hook or by crook, but that is going to happen. The ones who are educated, politically literate, those people are very welcome, to run the country. I think everybody, every citizen is going to have the same say. Somebody who is capable should only come, and that is going to be filtered out very soon.
So, form of governance is a concern for you, more than the leadership.
Yes, very. We are very much serious about the system rather than people. People, they come of all shapes and sizes, but if the system is strong, able to bind them within the law, the country is stable, the country is prosperous, the living standard goes up.
If you allow me to ask, do you see the political parties that were running this country and the government turn by turn earlier revising themselves, reforming themselves, and coming to the agenda of yours?
My answer would be kind of similar, as I said earlier. I cannot say for everybody, but I think, to be able to go to people's door and to ask for them to vote them, they have to be able to show their face. They cannot, I don't see any moral grounds they can step on and go to people's door to ask for votes. They have to at least agree to something. 78 people died, 1,500 are injured. The Singha Darbar got burned, Supreme Court got burned. It has to happen. Or what moral grounds do they hold? To go to ask, to vote them, to let them win.
Will they take the blame, or are you blaming them that you are responsible for all those things that happened?
No, I think we take collective blame.
We all have to.
Yeah, we all have to take collective blame. There's no one single individual that can be blamed for this. There's no evidence to prove it, or nothing.
Your movement has been internationally seen and very closely monitored as well. And there has been a lot of blames at times as well of a foreign influence on that. Do you have anything to say on that?
Well, now if I say it would all be, a conspiracy. So I don't want to speak about conspiracy. If I have, evidence, I would speak about it. But let's not talk about conspiracy here.
My last question to you, Miraj. How do you inculcate hope in the people after all these things that have happened? Every 10 years, another revolution, another protest that changes the system, that asks for a change in the overall setup. How do you inculcate that pretty hope in the common people at this point of time?
So the way I and my generation give people hope is the protest we did it out of sheer emotion. Some were politically aware, yes, but we could not keep the dissatisfaction to us anymore. We did it out of sheer emotion, very true emotion. So maybe, and also the age, we're people from maybe not so corrupt age. As you grow older, maybe you get more corrupt, but we are very sacred or pure until now. And if educated young people, literate young people, politically aware young people, if they come forth and they keep agendas that are collectively good for the country, I think people are going to be hopeful towards us. So I think in that way, I think we're going to give people hope in the coming days.
And the people should be hopeful and also be very wise when it comes to making decisions.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
Yeah, one thing I want to, the current situation is people are very critical, but they are not hopeful. This is my, my complaint with the society, or yeah, my complaint with the society, because they're very, very quick to label people. Somebody as young as me, you know, I get accused of so many things. Now, I urge people, Nepali people, to be hopeful and not critical all the time. You know, you have heard other people, you have, you know, trusted the older leaders to change the country. Trust us one more time, you know, or you don't trust and nobody is going to make the country. We have to be hopeful in order for the country to, you know, be prosperous. I think I urge that to Nepali people to be more hopeful than critical.
Thank you for your time
Thank
and
you
your
so
thoughts, Miraz. Good
so
luck
much.
for your future plans.
Thank you.
Well, we're having a conversation in this episode of Declassified Beyond the Brave with Miraz Dongana, a youth who became an icon overnight. Do keep us following on our website, nepaltelevision.com, our social media platforms. For the time being, from this episode of Declassified Beyond the Brief, it's me, Devendra, saying bye-bye.
Since childhood, I always like to go in a competition. Even I was in a high school, I done many competition in athletics or other things, and then I end up with MasterChef. I was winner of rematch in 2020 MasterChef UK Professionals. My all-time favorite, and I think all Nepali favorite, is goat curry and rice, masala. I'm from Karjanaha village, district Siraha. When I was very small kid, I started working for a family, and same time I was studying as well. When I was 5 years old, my father passed away. When I was very young age, for us, food was survival food. Till SLC, I was in village, and then I went to India for work purpose, and then I started working in a 5-star hotel as a kitchen porter. Then I find my passion about the cooking, because I was seeing the chef's very nice, tidy, white jacket with a white hat, and then I decided I want to like these guys, and I became a chef in a few months, and then working almost 7 years, and then I continued my study as well, and after 7 years I became an executive chef in 5-star hotel. In a MasterChef, I was cooking only Nepali food and introducing Nepali food, Nepali spices and Nepali technique, because Nepali food was never discovered to the world, and Nepal have a very good potential. The people never expected gundruk to be like this, and even wachipa pite, burning feathers, chicken feathers, and marinating in chicken and cooking with rice. Also, padam chal, that's a Himalayan rhubarb. This kind of things I cook in the MasterChef. I have also written a book called Ayla, A-Y-L-A, Ayla book. That's a recipe cookbook. During the MasterChef, I started Nepali cuisine. Before I was working in a Michelin star, French Michelin star, Indian Michelin star as well. That was not my Nepali cuisine, was not my cuisine. But now I can say proudly, Nepali cuisine is my cuisine. Still, I am promoting Nepali food, ethnic cuisine, cultural cuisine. Like if you see, we are in a Nepaltelevision fish house. Mithila cuisine is very close to my heart. That reflects Tarai region food to the world, and this food was never promoted as well. And opening a Mithila restaurant and promoting Mithila cuisine. Mithila cuisine is very healthy. Mithila food have fermentation, freshness, seasonal vegetables, seasonal cookings. So lots of things came into Mithila cuisine. So I think world should know about this cuisine. I really want to serve Nepal via food. This is the third year I'm doing Nepali cuisine restaurant in Nepal, and almost 200 people working for me. If you want to be a chef, if you are confused to decide, I think this is the right time to do it. And if you are studying in abroad, I think Nepal have a very good potential for the business in a hospitality industry, because Nepal is a tourism-based country, and tourism always need a good hospitality, good restaurant, good food, and good hotel. Now I'm dreaming with the open eyes. I want a Michelin star chef with Nepali food. Then any part of the world, I will be opening Michelin star Nepali restaurant.
I came from Biratnagar and am at a global stage on data and AI and finance. So I was born and brought up in a city called Biratnagar in the eastern part of Nepal. I was brought up in a typical middle-class Nepali family. I went to school in a normal Nepali school. I studied there until SLC in Biratnagar. As for my higher education, I did my undergrad in Australia. I went over to study quant finance at New York University. I did masters in financial engineering. When I remember my childhood, I used to like sports. Cricket was my thing. And I always liked numbers, patterns, logic. When I found quant finance, it kind of was a formalization of most of my interests that I had as a kid. I was recognized as a change maker. All I did was used mathematics and advanced computational sciences to create mathematical models to predict investments and risk, etc. There's nothing like that being done widely in the industry. As you see, it's a very recent phenomenon. That's how I kind of got into this spot of being recognized as the top 100 influential figures in AI. I remember this song, Hatne Hoina Dati Ladne, right? And that kind of is the embodiment of us. Nepal taught me to lead during scarcity. Nepal taught me to asset allocate when resources are limited, to innovate, right? For me, getting this recognition or being, global stage, it just gives me a bigger microphone. And what I probably would plan to do, or what I am always kind of striving to do, is use that bigger microphone to convey the message on what could be the possibility for tomorrow. I just am a medium for a lot of people here who have already been doing this thing for a long time. Nepal does not lack intelligence. Our bottleneck is not we don't know how to do things. Our bottleneck is infrastructure and policy framework. These are two things, and if we solve this, I think market is going to take its turn and you will see proliferation. Don't stop dreaming. That would be my first thing. Dream big. If you are persistent on what you want, and if you have clarity of thought and logic, you will achieve it.
I think like any other young people, usually in Nepal, the jobs were the primary intention of many youth coming out of education system. So even my family and my friends, they thought that I'm going to take a job. Starting something out in Nepal where the entrepreneurial ecosystem is pretty young, and it's very difficult in terms of many ways, like finding the funding, finding the suppliers, navigating the government offices. It's pretty difficult. I think one of the most difficult things was to try to do something that no one has ever done before. So running an education organization that does research and also does manufacturing. So there was a lot of learning curve and a lot of failures in the path. My name is Pratham. By education, I'm an electronics and communication engineer. I worked in robotics for a couple of years. I always had this curiosity of building things, trying things out. I always had this experimental mindset, and that took me closer to starting Karkhana along with my co-founders. So Karkhana acts as multiple entities and ideas at the same time. So we are a research organization, work with national and international universities to do research on pedagogy, lesson plan design. We actually also work as an innovation space where we design these materials that can actually be taken inside the classroom to make science slightly more fun, slightly more experiential. But we also act as a manufacturing space where we manufacture these materials and make sure these materials reach into the classroom. But they're not only reaching the classroom as a just material, but we also train the teachers, support them to convert their regular classroom into more of a land, like a classroom of a discovery. And we actually align all of these activities in the curriculum side. So it helps students study their science from the national curriculum side, but it teaches them in a far more experiential format. We started Karkhana as a makerspace, as an innovation center, but slowly we realized that it's not the space that's required for innovation, but it's the mindset that's required for innovation. And we actually wanted to work on building the culture of experimentation in Nepal. Currently, we're working with 250 schools all across Nepal in more than 35 districts altogether, currently impacting around 1,500 classrooms where more than 42,000 children learn science in a more hands-on, experiential way, where they're not only learning science as a subject, but they're learning science as a mindset. So we usually find chemistry to be one of the most difficult subjects, right? So for example, when we're studying in school, so we have learned about atoms and how atoms are formed. We know that neutron, proton are in the center, the electrons are in the circle, like they are in orbits. So we actually give students this kind of model where they actually form atomic models, and they can actually form hydrogen, helium, lithium, and iron. So they can form different atoms, but not only that, they can also understand how 3D structures of these atoms are like maintained. So they can actually build these things out in the classroom, and they can actually compare these models with each other, and it's a lot of fun. Being inside a country like Nepal and being affected with things like earthquake, instability in the government, unstable education policies and policy at large, being affected with issues like COVID, blockade. So I think navigating all these things in a country that is developing its entrepreneurial ecosystem and trying to sustain the business in this kind of environment, I think you're largely firefighting every day. I hope to take this idea beyond Nepal as well over the course of the years. I think it's very viable in places in South Asia because we share a very similar socio-economic conditions where the science is still taught as a history lesson, as a subject that is needed to be learned to get done with the exam. So I think I want to challenge that idea that science is just a subject, but it's more of a mindset, it's a lifestyle, and when you adopt that kind of scientific thinking in your life, I think the life gets much experimental. Pretty excited about this idea that we might be able to solve problems not in the classrooms of Nepal, but also beyond Nepal, exploring places like Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, where we think that we can make an impact, and in places like Darjeeling, Sikkim, where we might go out and use Nepali language to reach and work as well. Education is a very old process. Being progressive also does not mean being anti-traditional. So trying to blend what has worked in the past, but also trying to integrate what is there in the future. So we're trying to make sure that the learning is fun, impactful, and relevant as well.
प्राकृतिक, धार्मिक तथा सांस्कृतिक रूपमा धनी सैलुङमा तपाईलाई हार्दिक स्वागत छ। यहाँको भौगोलिक इतिहास निकै आश्चर्य लाग्दो छ। प्रथम बुद्ध साङ्गेले स्वर्गबाट झरेर प्रवचन दिनुभएकाले पहिले यस ठाउँलाई साङ्गेलुङ भनिन्थ्यो। पछि अपभ्रंश भएर सैलुङ भनिएको हो। यस ठाउँमा पाँचौं बुद्ध पद्मसम्भवाएर लामो समय तपस्या गर्नुभएको किम्वदन्ती छ। हिन्दू धर्मको कहावत अनुसार पहिला ऋषि मुनिहरू यहाँ आएर तपस्या गर्थे। कलियुग सुरु भएपछि पाप देख्न नपरोस् भनेर प्रत्येक ठाउँमा ऋषिमुनि अलग भए र यी ठाउँमा थुम्का निस्किए। तपाईँ हामी अहिले यस्ता 108 वटा भन्दा बढी अवलोकन गर्न सक्छौं। यदि तपाईँ यी थुम्कामा पुग्नुभयो भने त्यहाँबाट नेपालका 60% हिम श्रृङ्खला हेरेर आनन्द लिन सक्नुहुन्छ। महालङ्गुर, रोलबालिङ, अन्नपूर्ण हिम श्रृङ्खलाहरू तपाईलाई हेरेर चम्किनेछन्। सैलुङले सिजन नै पछि आफ्नो रूप फेर्छ। तपाईँ हिउँदमा आउनुभयो भने हिउँसित खेल्न सक्नुहुन्छ। चैत वैशाखमा आउनुभयो भने गुराँससित मितेरी लगाउन सक्नुहुन्छ। सैलुङमा तपाईँ 100 भन्दा बढी जडीबुटीको अध्ययन गर्न सक्नुहुन्छ। चौरी डुलाउने प्रचलित ठाउँ पनि हो यो। यदि तपाईँ साबाखर्क भन्ने ठाउँमा बिहान पुग्नु भयो भने अवश्य चौरी गाई देख्न सक्नुहुन्छ। चौरी गोठमा पोसिलो चौरीको दुध पिउँदाको आनन्द अनि यहाँको छुर्पी तपाईँ अवश्य बिर्सनुहुन्न। लेकाली भेग भएकाले यहाँको अन्नबालीमा पनि विविधता देख्न सकिन्छ। 6 महिना लगाएर फल्ने यहाँका आलु मुडे लगिन्छ। यहाँबाट प्रचलित मुडेको आलु तपाईँ कहाँ आइपुग्छ। सैलुङको सांस्कृतिक विविधता पनि तपाईलाई रोचक लाग्ला। यहाँ बहुजातीय समाज छ। तामाङ, मगर, गुरुङ, छेत्री, बाहुन, थामी, नेवार आदिको मिश्रित समाजमा तपाईले मानिसहरू मिलेर गाउँ विकास गरेको देख्न सक्नुहुन्छ। अझै तपाईलाई साहसिक खेल मन पर्छ भने यहाँका गुफाहरूले तपाईलाई पर्खिरहेका छन्। यस्तो रोमाञ्चक ठाउँ काठमाडौँबाट 120 किलोमिटर दूरीमा मात्र छ। तपाईँ काठमाडौँबाट धुरीखेल, दोलालघाट, खाडी चौर, मुडे हुँदै दोलखाको यो रमणीय स्थल पुग्न सक्नुहुन्छ। खान बस्नका लागि यहाँका आधुनिक होटलहरू र हिँड्न डुल्नका लागि बनाइएका फराकिलो बाटोले तपाईलाई पर्खिरहेका छन्। सैलुङमा तपाईलाई फेरि पनि स्वागत छ।
Among Nepal's many glacial lakes, some are at serious risk of bursting. Sudden bursts of these lakes due to the impact of climate change could result in massive loss of lives and property. This issue has already been discussed widely in the international community. Nepal itself has been drawing attention to the condition of these lakes and the harm they could cause. Even then, in the recent years, several glacial lakes of Nepal have already burst, resulting in heavy loss of life and property. Experts warn that this trend could continue to grow and have urged everyone to take preventive action. Just a week ago, in Koike rural municipality of Dolba district of the far western Nepal, flood mixed with derbs buried about 53 houses. Likewise, in mid-April 2025, heavy rainfall and flooding in Srinagar Bazar of Odanchali municipality in Humla in the northwestern Nepal has caused massive destruction. Continuous rain has also damaged areas in Srinagar and nearby villages in Mugu's Khatiar rural municipality. Last year, it was confirmed that the flood in Thame River of Solkhumbu in the Khumbu region of the foothills of Mount Everest was caused by glacial lake outbursts. Similarly, the unexpected flood in Rasua along Nepal-China border in the north on July 8, 2025, according to experts, was the result of glacial lake outbursts. Recently, ICIMOD used satellite images and other research to identify 47 glacial lakes that could burst at any time, causing harm to human settlement in Nepal. The study shows that many of these high-risk lakes are located within Koshi River Basin. ICIMOD's General Director Dr. Pema Gyamso says that the climate change and rising temperature are the main reasons behind the bursting of these lakes. Gyamso adds that to stop such disasters, there must be strong investment in the early warning systems and emergency preparation.
Collaboration चाहिए, cooperation transboundary. अब हाम्रो 8 वटा देश छ इन्दो-कोशी हिमालयमा, त्यसमा हामीले information exchange गर्ने scientific cooperation. अब त्यसको लागि पनि investment चाहियो, funding चाहियो. त्यसको पनि problem छ. And हामीले अहिले इसिमो चाहिँ यो politically neutral भएर हामीले चाहिँ के गर्दैछौँ भने साइन्टिस्टहरु र हाम्रो पोलिसी मेकर्सहरु डिस्कस चाहिँ हुँदैछ, तर हामीले अलिक यो भन्दा बेसी कोअपरेसन चाहिँ हुँदैछ, खास चाहिँ कोअर्डिनेसन कोअपरेसन हो. हामीले यो रिसोर्सेस र यो नपुगेर पनि कोअपरेसन छ भने अहिले भन्दा बेसी हामीले त्यो प्रिभेन्सन गर्न सक्छौँ डिसास्टर.
Out of the 47 risky glacial lakes, 25 are located in China, 21 are inside Nepal, and 1 lies on the Indian side. Even if the lakes in China and India burst, the damage would still reach Nepal's settlement downstream. Records show that glacial lake outbursts have been causing destruction in Nepal for decades. In the past 24 years alone, 26 glacial lake outbursts have been recorded. Among them, 14 occurred inside Nepal itself. Research shows that Lower Boran Lake is one of the lakes posing highest risk that could affect the nearby settlements. Similarly, Chamlang, Inja, Lumding, and Tulangi glacial lakes are also at high risk. If large amount of stored water releases at once, the resulting flood could be even bigger than the recent ones in Rasua. When heavy snow or ice falls onto the glacial lake, it can displace the water, causing sudden floods downstream. Large blocks of ice or rock sliding onto the lake can push the water out, creating massive flood carrying mud, rocks, and derbs. Experts believe that Nepal still needs to do much more to reduce the impact of climate change. They say cooperation in the international community and greater national investment in prevention and protection are both essential.
Following bitter disagreements, the UN Climate Summit COP13 in Belém of Brazil has ended with a deal that contains no direct reference to the fossil fuels that are heating up the planet. It is a frustrating end for more than 80 countries, including the UK and EU, that wanted the meeting to commit the world to stop using oil, gas, and coal at a faster pace. But oil-producing nations held the line that they should be allowed to use their fossil fuel resources to grow their economies. The meeting takes place as the UN says it fears global efforts to limit global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels have failed. A representative for Colombia furiously criticized the COP presidency for not allowing countries to object to the deal in the final meeting on Saturday, known as a plenary. The final deal calls on countries to voluntarily accelerate their action to reduce their use of fossil fuels. For the first time, the U.S. did not send a delegation after President Donald Trump said the country will leave the landmark Paris Treaty that committed countries to act on climate change in 2015. He has branded climate change a con, but for many countries, the fact that the talks did not collapse or roll back on past climate agreements is a relief. Global electronic dance music powerhouse Tomorrowland has made its long-anticipated debut in mainland China, launching a two-day indoor festival in Shanghai that industry observers say marks a turning point for the country's fast-growing EDM market. Held on November 22nd to 23rd, the event titled The Magic of Tomorrowland transformed Shanghai's Hero Dome into an elaborate fantasy world and the brand's signature theatrical stage design. With a capacity of around 10,000, the show represents a scaled, carefully curated introduction of the Tomorrowland experience to the Chinese audience. The lineup blended international EDM heavyweights such as Dimitri Vegas, Emily Lenz, and Don Diablo with emerging and established Chinese DJs. Organizers say the approach is designed to bridge local and global dance music cultures and help nurture homegrown talent. A sapling ground from the UK's sycamore gap tree is planted at a sanctuary in Coventry after the iconic original was deliberately felled in 2023. It is among the first of 49 to be put across the UK in publicly accessible places. The sycamore gap tree, one of the most photographed in the UK, was cut down overnight in September 2023, prompting nationwide shock. 2 men were later convicted of criminal damage. The National Trust later revealed plans to distribute the saplings to places where they could inspire hope, remembrance, and connection with nature. Additional trees are said to be planted in hospitals, memorial sites, green spaces, and community projects, with further batches due in national parks in early 2026. The Coventry sapling, now around 5 feet tall, will continue to be monitored and cared for by volunteers who say they hope it will become a focal point for community pride. Kilim weaving, one of Turkey's most deeply rooted traditions, is being brought back to life. The Barak Kilim, a unique and historical significant type of hand-woven carpet with a 400-year-old history, is once again being created on traditional looms. Barak Kilims are regarded as exceptional examples of handloom artistry due to their distinctive motifs and patterns. In Turkey's Antalya, the forgotten art of the Barak Kilim is being revived through dedicated and handcrafted efforts. Dyes are exclusively made from nature root pigments. This ensures the colors, which often include vibrant purple, indigo, red, green, and pink, remain bright and unfading over time. The Barak Kilims are sold based on demand, providing a crucial contribution to the local economy while simultaneously preserving a vital piece of Turkey's cultural identity. A powerful cold front sweeping across France has brought the first major snowfall of the winter season, prompting it to issue snow and ice alerts for 76 departments. In Paris and surrounding suburbs, the combination of snowfall followed by potential freezing rain may lead to dangerously slick conditions, with forecasters cautioning that alerts could escalate if temperatures continue to plunge overnight. Met Agency says a sudden shift to a polar air mass is responsible for the dramatic temperature drop and widespread snow expected throughout the week. Authorities are warning drivers to exercise extreme caution as a mix of snow, sleet, and freezing rain threatens to turn roads into icy across much of the country. The eastern regions, particularly near the Swiss border, are already experiencing major disruption, with hundreds of motorists stranded, forcing local officials to open emergency shelters. The crash of India's Tejas fighter in front of global arms buyers at the Dubai Air Show is the latest blow to a key national trophy, leaving the jet reliant on Indian military orders to sustain its role as a showcase of home-built defense technology. The cause of Friday's crash was not immediately known, but it capped a week of jockeying for influence at the event attended by India's arch-rival Pakistan 6 months after the neighboring foes faced off in the world's largest air battle in decades. Such a public loss will inevitably overshadow India's efforts to establish the jet abroad after a painstaking development over 4 decades, experts say, as India paid tribute to Wing Commander Naman Sal, who died in the crash. Dubai is the world's third largest airport after Paris and Britain's Farnborough, and accidents at such events have become increasingly rare. The Tejas program began in the 1980s as India sought to replace vintage Soviet origin MiG-21s, the last of which retired as recently as September after numerous extensions due to slow Tejas deliveries by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. The state-owned company has 180 of the advanced Mk1A variant on order domestically, but is yet to begin deliveries due to engine supply chain issues at GE Aerospace. Target markets include Asia, Africa, and Latin America, and the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited also opened an office in Malaysia in 2023.
AI brings in a lot of augmentation and efficiency gains, which will not necessarily replace the human, but produce a lot more efficient human, almost like a superhuman, where the person will be able to do more jobs in less amount of time. And that efficiency gains could impact overall economic output, which could then generate a lot more new kind of jobs.
Will they be a misfit in near future?
More and more people should learn how to use some of these tools, because if you don't use it, I don't know if misfit is the word, but you will be left behind.
In the misty hills of eastern Nepal, the sounds of wooden hammers and the scent of freshly cut timber are returning to a landscape where silence had settled for decades. Traditional limbu houses, once they had a village life, are rising again, not as a family dwellings this time, but as living museums of a culture on the brink of disappearance. For years, the old-style home construction built with mud, stone, and timber had been abandoned. But now, a joint initiative by Nepal's federal, provincial and local governments aim to bring them back through a new cultural tourism project known as the Raithane Park, meaning Indigenous Heritage Park. Located at the confluence of Ward 3 and 4 of Kumayak municipality, the Sambafe Cholung Raithane Park stretches across nearly 15 ropenis, about 0.76 hectares of terraced hills. Funded by the Ministry of Culture, Tourism and Civil Aviation, the Province 1 government and the municipality. The park has received more than 20 million Nepali rupees, around $150,000 in investment. Inside, visitors can walk through replicas of traditional limbu homes, stroll along with stone-paved paths, rest in community-built waiting shelters, or climb a view tower overlooking the lost hills of Stone Nepal. Locals have begun earning from tourism, guiding visitors, selling homemade food, and hosting cultural performances that were nearly forgotten. For many, the project is not nostalgia, but it is survival. Local officials say the project represents a new model of heritage-based rural development, blending cultural preservation with economic empowerment. Across Nepal, modern cement houses have replaced wooden homes, erasing centuries of craftsmanship and local identity. Meanwhile, cultural experts warn that traditional knowledge from building techniques to social rituals risk being lost entirely as rural populations shrink and migration rises. For the beekeepers of Thading, what started as their backward hobby has now turned to a profitable business. After gaining a good income for the bee production, they have upgraded their hives, keeping more than 25 by a single owner. Beekeeping has become popular across the district as a lucrative source of income, with farmers setting up hives even on barren and unused land there. With increasing youth migration abroad in search of opportunities and the resulting fallow land in many areas, locals who continue to live in their villages have taken up beekeeping as a simple livelihood option there. Unlike other crops, beekeeping is easy to manage, and with a shortage of labor for field work, farmers find it more feasible than other agricultural activities. Farmers say, with good market access, selling honey and honeycombs can earn up to 300,000 Nepali rupees per season, with the possibility of harvesting honey 3 times a year.
कृषिबाट आर्थिक समिति अवश्य छ यो ठाउँमा यो मौरी मात्र विभिन्न पेशाहरू विभिन्न कामहरू हामी गर्न सकिन्छ सम्बन्ध गर्न निम्ति कृषि भन्दा विकल्प अरु केही छैन यहाँ चाहिँ म यो देख्छु नेपालमा हैन सँगसँगै यो ठाउँ त अझ कृषिलाई एउटा उर्वरा ठाउँ हो यो ठाउँमा बनेको.
Its honeycombs sells for about 15,000 Nepali rupees, roughly equivalent to some $120, while honey itself sells for around 1,500, that is around $12. The marginalized Chepang community from the remote hills of Thading district in central Nepal are distressed, as broom grass, known as amrisu, are no longer a charm for the buyers. Once a lucrative source of income, the broom produced from amrisu, species of grass, are overshadowed by a demand of plastic or other imported type of brooms from India and China. The natural broom was a dependable source of income for the families which relied its sale before. For the Chepang, an indigenous group traditionally living a semi-nomadic lifestyle rooted in foraging and hunting, amrisu has long been synonymous with livelihood and survival. There was a time when they sold the broom grass equivalent of $250 to $700 in one season. But this year, they appear less excited to go to the slopes of hills and harvest broom grass. In view of uplifting overall Japan's lifestyle, the local level government in remote Thading has been assisting further sustainable development by encouraging them to grow broom grass in unused and barren hilly lands.
पहिला सर तपाईको लगभग 30-35 हजारको आय हुन्थ्यो अहिले तपाईको लगभग किन भने अरु कुचुली पेरेर हो कि न झाडुले पेरेर हो कि किन तपाईको अहिले चाहिँ कमै आछ के.
Meanwhile, Japan community lament that lack of market and promotion of local production from local traders are one of the barriers for the good earning. Nepal imports brooms primarily from India and China, which are its largest suppliers. Other import sources include Switzerland, Malaysia, and Indonesia. Nepal has taken vulture conservation seriously and becoming a global pioneer with strong measures like creating community-managed feeding sites and implementing a national action plan. Following this, a new initiative has begun in Dang, a southern district of Lumbini province in Nepal, including vulture conservation in students' textbook to protect vultures, a species now on the brink of extinction. Dang has the highest vulture population in the country, and teaching this subject in school is expected to build a stronger support for long-term vulture conservation. Since Dang has become one of the country's safest habitats for vulture, efforts are being made to include vulture conservation in school textbook to raise awareness among students. The campaign launched by the Center of Environmental Sustainable Development and Research in Tulsipur, Dang, follows consultations with school principals and local officials. They highlight the need for students to understand the vital role vultures play in maintaining a clean and healthy environment, noting that integrating the topic into school studies and science subject would be effective. The center believes that including vulture conservation in school curriculum will help students appreciate their ecological importance and could also support wildlife tourism in the district. Tulsipur Mayor Tikaram Kharka meanwhile emphasizes the vulture protection is a shared responsibility and should not remain in local effort alone. He calls on the government to prioritize the issue nationally and introduce vulture conservation into school curriculum across the country. Janakpur Dham, the cultural and religious heart of Nepal's Mithila region, is currently immersed in the week-long celebration of the Hindu festival Ram Sita Vivaha Panchami. Lord Ram and Goddess Sita are revered as a divine couple and central figures in the epic Ramayana. The festival features a series of religious rituals and cultural performances culminating in the symbolic wedding ceremony on the 5th day of the waxing moon, that is, in the month of November. The celebrations officially begin with the traditional Nagar Darshan procession, followed yesterday by the Fulwari Leela, flower garden tale. On this day, a flower garden tale, boys representing Lord Ram and his brother Lakshman are brought to the flower garden near the wedding pavilion beside Janaki temple to meet a girl, symbolizing Goddess Sita. This reenactment depicts the devotional and romantic episodes from the Ramayana when Ram and Sita first meet in a flower garden, where Sita had gone to pick flowers with her companions. The episode is reenacted each year to honor this historic encounter between Ram and Sita. Today, the third day of the festival, marks the celebration of Dhanus Yagya, commemorating the moment Lord Ram lifted and broke King Janak's divine bow, that is known as Sivadhanus, a feat that established his supremacy and led to his marriage with Sita. The festival concludes on the seventh day, traditionally called Ram Kaleva, when the symbolic wedding ceremonies of Ram and Sita are completed. On this day, the focus shifts to bidding farewell to the wedding guests from Ayodhya, India, who have participated in the elaborate week-long festivities. Recently, in the central hilly region of Nepal, Sangza, a new initiative has been launched to engage school-level students in preserving Nepal's traditional arts and culture alongside their regular studies. Panche Baja, a set of 5 musical instruments, is a traditional Nepali ensemble commonly played during auspicious ceremonies such as weddings. The set typically includes 5 distinct instruments: the tamko, kettle drum, the maha, large kettle drum, narsingha, a long horn-like instrument, sanahi, a pipe or oboe, and jhali, cymbals. This training program goes beyond cultural activities. It also a foundation for skill development and helps students build a more secure future. Learning new skills alongside academic has become a source of motivation, energy, and enthusiasm for the students. Such skill-based programs not only strengthening cultural identity at the school level, but also open new opportunities for rural youth. The skill of playing Panche Baja hold potential for students to pursue professional livelihoods, supporting both economic empowerment and the preservation of local traditions. Overall, the initiative is expected to make a meaningful contribution to safeguarding and promoting Nepalese culture while inspiring the younger generation to stay connected with their cultural roots and heritage.
तिमीलाई फोहोर भयो मान्यौ अब हामी मूर्ख मदेखिको चेत आँखा खुलाइदेऊ तिमीले सत्य हामी अब तिम्रो पाउ पर्छौं
23-year-old Pramila Kargi claims she had prophetic dream of 5 sacred stones. Later, upon excavation, the stones were found on the said site. Kargi says the stones represent Panchakanya Devi or Mata Pathivara, revered goddesses in Hindu tradition. Since the discovery, the once quiet riverbank has turned into a bustling pilgrimage site, drawing hundreds of devotees and skeptics each day. While believers see a divine manifestation, others dismiss it as a superstition. Videos of Kargi's claim and images of the stones have flooded social media, sparking heated debate and turning Panchakanya into a national trending topic. Authorities have stepped in to manage the growing crowds. Chairperson of Elam Municipality, Gopal Chauhan, says the local ward office will protect the site and form a committee to build a temple there.
पूजा गरिँदैछ र यो स्थानीय सरकारबाट आयोजना भएको यो कार्यक्रम हो यसलाई स्थानीय सरकारले रेखदेख गरेर कार्यक्रम अगाडि बढाएर लिएर जानेछ
The area has already been named Panchakanya Devi Sacred Place after rituals and prayers of forgiveness were performed. Some locals who initially doubted Kargi's story changed their minds after a snake considered sacred Hindu belief reportedly appeared during excavation. The area has already been named Panchakanya Devi Sacred Place after rituals and prayers of forgiveness were performed. Some locals who initially doubted Karki's story changed their minds after a snake, considered sacred in Hindu belief, reportedly appeared during excavation. Meanwhile, monks and spiritual figures from Nepal and India have also visited, offering differing interpretations of the event. For many, the stones have become more than an object of faith. They have turned a sleepy corner of Ilam into a space where devotion, doubt, and digital media collide, leaving Nepal once again debating where the line between miracle and myth truly lies.
In the high mountains, where the air thins and silence deepens, an ancient discipline endures. More than art, this is meditation in motion. A prayer woven into canvas, finding the divine within. This is Thangka.
Thangka भने चाहिँ त्यो समतल भूमि भने हो के हैन त्यो स्पेस भने हो त्यो रेसीमा पनि तपाईले सेतो गणमा स्पेस देख्नु हैन हो त्यसमा चाहिँ का लेख्ने भने चाहिँ बुद्धको वचन लेख्ने भने हो के त्यो बुद्धको वचन भएको चाहिँ त्यो चाहिँ शुद्ध छ हैन राम्रो छ त्यसले चाहिँ मानव जीवनलाई चाहिँ कल्याण मानव जीवनलाई मात्र नभएर प्राणी जगतलाई नै चाहिँ कल्याण गर्ने चीज हो थाङ्गा त्यही भएर चाहिँ जीवन जिउनेसँग चाहिँ रिलेटेड छ भनेर भने हो त्यो चाहिँ पञ्चतत्वको रूपमा चाहिँ त्यो चिनाएर त्यो तत्त्वलाई त्यो ठाउँमा जानुपर्छ भनेरको यो त आशयको रूपमा चाहिँ लगेको हुन्छ
Thangka painting is more than art. It's devotion on canvas, rooted in Buddha philosophy, traditions, and shaped by centuries of Buddhist influence. Each stroke tells a story of enlightenment.
This is not from painter's own mind. This is from the book. So painter, they have to strictly follow the rules. Through meditation, we can understand our true nature. And when we understand our true nature, we understand everybody. And our true nature is compassion. Our true nature is wisdom. And when we practice these things, we find peace, and that peace is permanent.
Thangka painting is not merely creation. It is consecration, rooted in Buddhist philosophy and perfected through centuries. Each brushstroke carries the weight of a mantra. Each color a fragment of enlightenment.
खाइबो भन्छ हामीले चाहिँ आर्टिस्टलाई त्यो खाइबाले चाहिँ किन आएर चाहिँ डोग्यो भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ तिनचोटी डोग्यो त्यो शरण गमन गरे हो के म बुद्धको शरणमा छु भन्ने हो त्यो चाहिँ बुद्ध चित्त उत्पाद गर्ने भन्छ के चित्त तपाईको शुद्ध हुनु पर्यो हैन त्यो शुद्ध भएर लेखेको थाङ्गाले चाहिँ अरूलाई पनि राम्रो गर्ने पनि प्राणी हितको लागि चाहिँ यो मैले गरेको लेखेको बुद्ध वचनले चाहिँ उहाँहरूलाई चाहिँ राम्रो होस् भन्ने आशाका साथ चाहिँ छोड्नुपर्छ कि हो यसरी चाहिँ लेखेको हुन्छ थाङ्गा चाहिँ।
The Thanka is a visual scripture, a spiritual map to transcendence. Every artist begins not with imagination, but with surrender to discipline, devotion, and compassion for all living beings. To paint is to meditate. To complete is to awaken. In today's studios, the old and the new converge. Tutors like Sushan Subedi introduce curious travelers to ancient grammar of lines and color.
All of the painting you are seeing over here, so these are known as Thanka, which is a Tibetan word which means the painting that is painted on a cotton surface. Okay, so first of all what we do is, we just take a normal cotton like this and we stretch it on a wooden frame very hardly and very tightly. Okay, so while tying it very hard on normal cotton, what happens is there are millions of tiny holes. So if you pour the color can bleed. So we cannot do the painting on a normal cotton. So we have a process, we call it the process of canvas.
While at nearby workshops, artists like Sonam still lose themselves in the ritual of creation.
यो चाहिँ बम्बईडियन कटन जुन यसैबाट चाहिँ हाम्रो ट्रेडिसनल आर्टको चाहिँ थाङ्का फर्स्ट प्रोसेसिङ चाहिँ यहीँबाट हुन्छ। सरेस भन्ने गरिन्छ हामीले, यो चाहिँ खासमा र याक स्किन भनेर चाहिँ प्रयोग गरिन्छ पहिलेको त्यो हिस्ट्री हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ। अनि अब यो चाहिँ हाम्रो चाहिँ माध्यम चाहिँ यो ग्लुको काम गर्छ यसले चाहिँ। यो र हामीले चाहिँ माटो मिसाएर चाहिँ यसमा पानी लगाएर अब यसको कति मात्रा उ गरेर तताइसकेपछि चाहिँ अनि अब हामीले कत्रो क्यानभस बनाउने कतिवटा बनाउने त्यो हिसाबले हामीले यो सरेस माटो भनिन्छ त्यो मिलाएर मात्र मिलाएर हामीले प्रोसेसिङमा जानु सकिन्छ। हामीले चाहिँ यो क्यानभस बनाउँदाखेरि समयअनुसार मौसम अनुसारले पनि बनाउनु पर्ने हुन्छ। घाम लाग्ने बेलामा बनाउनु सक्यो भने हामीले छिटो आफ्नो कामहरू छिटो छरिदो बनाउन सकिन्छ र झरी पर्ने बेलामा चाहिँ हामीलाई निकै समय लाग्छ। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि यो घाम लाग्ने बेलामा हामीले बनाउन सक्यौँ भने छिटो अनि यसलाई आफूलाई चाहिने मात्रामा पटक पटक यता दुई साइडमा चाहिँ क्लिन गर्नु सफा गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। अनि कतिको मात्रा हामीलाई चाहिन्छ त्यो पुगिसकेपछि हामीले त्यसपछि स्केचमा जानुपर्ने हुन्छ। यो सुकिसकेपछि चाहिँ एउटा यसरी पनि हामीले चेक गर्न सकिन्छ हामीले कतिको तयारी भयो भएन। यो आवाज आउनुपर्ने हुन्छ। जस्तै अब ओसिएको छ भने बेग्लै आवाज आउँछ, सुकेको छ भने राम्रो आवाज आउँछ यो।
Thanka painting begins with the canvas stretched tight, once upon wood, now upon iron frames. The glue that seals it, once drawn from the yak, now sourced from the maple or synthesized in a lab. Yet in the scent of drying paste, the artist still reads the readiness of the soul of the painting.
So after the sketching is done, second thing we do is the coloring. So while coloring, we have different levels of artists in our school. Like from the beginner level, we have intermediate and the master level of artists. So if you go with the beginner intermediate, they use the acrylic colors. But if you go with the master level of artists, so they use the stone colors like this. Okay, so why they use the stone color is stone being a natural color. So while we apply this sort of color in the art, it remains for the longer period of time because natural thing, it doesn't have expiry date. Yeah, so the meaning and the philosophy of an art, the art itself, it is preserved for the longer period of time. So that's why they use the stone. And for the finishing of an art, so we use 24 karat pure gold on the painting. Okay, so why we use the gold is not to make the painting very expensive, but if you see in Hinduism, in Buddhism, gold it is signified as in purity. So to purify the meaning and the philosophy behind the art, so we use 24 karat real gold.
Every line follows a rule, every proportion holds meaning. The face of the deity isn't imagined, it slowly reveals itself, guided by sacred patterns that keep harmony between the world outside and the spirit within. The colors come from the earth, crushed stones and minerals mixed with glue, made to last for generations. Lapis brings purity, malachite speaks of compassion, and cinnabar carries wisdom. These are just colors, they are prayers in pigment.
प्राचीन कालमा चाहिँ यो थाङ्का चाहिँ पाँचवटा कलर लिने हो पाँच कलर जस्तो अग्नि तत्त्व वायु तत्त्व माटो तत्त्व हावा तत्त्व पाँच तत्त्वले बनाएको हो त्यो पाँच तत्त्वले किन बनाएको भने त्यो पाँच तत्त्वबाट हाम्रो शरीर बनाएको छ नि यो थाङ्गा भनेको चाहिँ वास्तवमा के हो भने जे जति थाङ्गामा छ त्यो हामीसँगै छ जे हामीसँग त्यो थाङ्गामै छ त्यसकारण त्यो बेला चाहिँ त्यो नेचुरल हामी पनि नेचुरली बनाएको हो नि त प्राकृतिक बनाएको नि थाङ्गा पनि प्राकृतिक हो त्यसमा अलिक अहिले चाहिँ कलर के छ भने पाँचवटा कलरमा हामीले मिसाउँदाखेरि अर्को कलर बन्छ त्यो पाँचवटा कलर मात्रै पुग्दैन त्यो बेला त्यो रियालिटी थाङ्गाबाट नजिक बसेर साधन गर्दा हामीलाई एकदम भाइब्रेसन आउँछ पोजिटिभ कुरा आउँछ यो त खालि बुद्धले टिकाको टिचिङ गर्नुभएको नेचरल फेनोमेना छ नि नेचरल माइन्ड छ त्योसँग रिलेटेड छ यो
Then comes the awakening, the eyes. Until that moment, the thanga is silent. When the artist paints the peoples, the deity is invited to reside within. The canvas breathes, the prayer begins. From quiet Himalayan ateliers to the galleries in Tokyo, Berlin, and New York, thangas now travel far beyond the monasteries. They adorn homes, museums, and collectors' walls, a global symbol of Nepal's artistic devotion.
Mostly, Thanga word itself is a Tibetan word, so this tradition belongs to Tibetan people. This tradition belongs to Tamang. This tradition belongs to Newar community. Although they have different expression of color, technique, the detail, but this tradition, this culture belongs to this three community, and this is kind of passed on tradition. They learn this skill from their forefather to the new generation. This is how this tradition has been continuing and preserving. So it is beneficial for them to live their life, and it is beneficial for the country because this is a culture, and culture and tradition is the treasure of each country.
The trade sustains thousands. From the hum of bothers' alleys to export crates bound for distant lands, Thanga has become a vital thread in Nepal's creative economy. Yet, as markets grow, so does the tension between faith and fame, between meditation and merchandise.
कला चाहिँ दुवै राम्रै हो हैन आफ्नो आफ्नै फिलोसफी भन्ने हो। यसले चाहिँ तपाईँको मनभित्रको डेप्थमा जाने सिकाउने हो। यसमा चाहिँ यो चाहिँ मिहिन काम हुन्छ, कठिन पनि हुन्छ के, किनभने यसमा चाहिँ तपाईँले चाहिँ अघिको जस्तो धेरै चिजहरू चाहिँ लिनुपर्छ, अनुशासन लिनु पर्यो होइन, यसको विधि विधानमा बसेर गर्नुपर्छ। यसमा चाहिँ अब त्यो चाहिँ तपाईँको मनमा जुन फिलिङ्स आउँछ त्यो लेखिहाल्ने हो कि, त्यो गर्दाखेरि त्यसले पनि वर्ल्डमा चलिरहेछ। यसले चाहिँ नेपालले किन अब त्यसलाई चाहिँ कम्पिटिसन गर्न सक्छ भने चाहिँ यो चिज चाहिँ अरूले गर्न सक्दैन, किनभने त्यसमा मेडिटेसन ध्यान जस्तै गर्नुपर्छ कि। सरकारी स्कुलबाट चाहिँ स्कुलिङदेखि नै गर्नुपर्छ, यसको पाठ्यक्रमहरू बनाउनुपर्छ होइन। एउटा त्यो गरिसकेपछि यसको प्रमोट हुन्छ होइन। हामीलाई चाहिने त त्यो प्रवर्धन हो नि, तर ब्याङ्किङहरूले पनि के गर्नु पऱ्यो भने यसलाई चाहिँ बिना दिदोमा पनि के अरे ऋण दिने वातावरण होइन, कलाकारको के छुट्याएर कि। अनि तपाईँको हामीले ट्याक्स तिर्नुपर्छ, ट्याक्स तिर्दाखेरि पनि कुनै एउटा चिज चाहिँ कलाकारलाई कुन ओदामा राखेर त्यसको एउटा ब्यालेन्स एउटा गरेर सरकारले गरिदियो भने यसको झन् अझ फ्रस्टिन्छ कि। फ्रस्टिएपछि त यो नेपालकै लागि चाहिँ यसले चाहिँ पर्यटनलाई पनि विकास हुने, अनि त्यो स्कुल कलेजमा भयो भने पुस्ता हस्तान्तरण चाहिँ एकदम दिगो हुन्छ कि।
All the Thanka has same meaning of peace. So foreigner, they admire philosophy. Practitioner also, they choose deities mostly to practice, to visualize, and they imagine the quality of deities with themselves. And some least person, they want it as a souvenir to decorate for the positive vibe. Some they buy it for the gift for their loved one. Philosophy reminds us about the beautiful quality, and that quality gives us peace, and that peace is everyone searching for. So Thanka painting is very, very important for everyone because it is relevant with our life. If it is relevant with our life, that is truth.
But beyond commerce and canvas, a Thanka is still a mirror, reflecting a way of life where art and spirit breathe as one. Every brush that moves today carries the echo of generations, an unbroken whisper from monastery walls to the modern world. As the sun sets over the Himalayas, somewhere an artist bows before a finished Thanka. His work is now complete, his prayer released. For in every stroke lies a journey from pigment to prayer, from devotion to eternity. This is not just Nepal's art, it is Nepal's soul, painted into time.
What if I told you a story of a place shrouded in mystery and steeped in stones? A place where warriors were born and raised, and their path through the mountains still remain to this day. Ajikot Gorkha, the unbeaten kingdom.
हामी पाहुनाहरू आउनु हुँदाखेरि हामी यसरी स्वागत गर्छौं अनि अलि नाचगानहरू देखाउँछौं।
गर्व लाग्छ जन्मिएछु साँच्चै स्वर्गमा म त नेपालकी छोरी भन्छन् गोर्खाली
जस्तो घाटु चुड्काहरू भने चाहिँ विशेष गरी हुन्छ यहाँ
For those seeking a luxurious escape, there are stunning lodges that offer an indulgent retreat amidst the rugged beauty of this place. But for the true adventurers, this place has it all, from trekking through dense forests of Nagapokali trails to exploring ancient temples and learning the rich history of the region. So, what do you fancy? Are you the solo explorer, or do you prefer luxury within nature? Or perhaps you are the one who seeks to witness it all. Well, after all, life is a box of chocolates, and this place is filled with surprises. Welcome to the place where magic and reality intertwine, where the wonders of nature are both breathtaking and aspiring. From the elevations of 300 meters to a towering 8,000 meters, this place will leave you mesmerized and in awe.
AI brings in a lot of augmentation and efficiency gains, which will not necessarily replace the human, but produce a lot more efficient human, almost like a superhuman, where the person will be able to do more jobs in less amount of time. And that efficiency gains could impact overall economic output, which could then generate a lot more new kind of jobs.
Will they be a misfit in near future?
More and more people should learn how to use some of these tools, because if you don't use it, I don't know if misfit is the word, but you will be left behind.
स्वागत छ लुक्लामा तपाईहरुलाई राम्रोसँग आउनुभयो के प्लेनमा डरहरु लाग्नु भएन प्लेन भित्तैमा ठोकेला जस्तो हुन्छ यहाँ त
At an altitude of 2,860 meters, Lukla is the starting point of arguably one of the best trekking routes in the world, up to the Mount Everest base camp, finishing above 5,400 meters. Ram is one of hundreds of seasonal porters in the route.
अब यो त मान्छेलाई पनि यस्तै हो सजिलो त सर यो किनभने हिलो हुँदैन बेस क्याम्प जाँदा अब क्याम्पको 1000 रुपैयाँ हुन्छ डबल बारी बोकेर 3 क्याम्प 2-3 क्याम्प जति हिँडिन्छ त्यतिखेर चाहिँ 5000 जति पर्छ.
The route is popular, in fact crowded. This is only for the 2 months of April and May, and so is the profession of ram a seasonal affair.
अब कुनै खेर पाइन्छ कुनै खेर पाइँदैन मान्छे यतिकै हुन्छ त अब कुनै खेर त अब 4-5 दिन यतिकै बसेकै बजारतिर आयो घुम्यो यतिकै फेरि कोठामा फर्केर आयो अब बाँकी खाना खाँदै बस्यो त्यस्तै हो विदेश जाउँ त अब लाग्छ जानुलाई पनि फेरि अलिक गाह्रै छ पैसा चाहिन्छ अब पैसा छैन त्यो पेसामा पढाइ चाहिँ पुरुषहरू नै हुन्छ महिलाहरू पनि आधी उधी हुन्छ बिहानदेखि कहिले अब घाम लागिरहन्छ एकछिनमा यस्तो बादल आइहाल्छ रुममा भइहाल्छ यहाँको मौसम यस्तै हो सर पढेको भए त बाँकी अब सानोतिनो जबहरू हुन्थ्यो कि
Trekkers pass through nearly 6-7 small hamlets along the Lukla-Namche section of the route.
यहाँ सबै घरमा बिजुली पानीको राम्रो व्यवस्था छ सर
The locals do not have infrastructures or might have resected roads, but they have embraced development.
नाम्चे लुक्ला सबै बाटोभरि नै राख्ने बाटो राखिदिनु भएको छ
The topography is inhospitable, but the people are friendly.
यहाँ हरेक गाउँको आफ्नो आफ्नै हाइड्रो बिजुली निकाल्ने पावर छ
Solar panels give much needed warm water to survive the cold. No wonder everything comes at a cost here, charging a cell phone or getting a Wi-Fi connection.
अङ्ग्रेजी बोल्ने भए त अब कति अब खैराहरू भेट्छन् हिजो पनि 4 जना भेटेको थियो फाल्टो ग्रुप अब अङ्ग्रेजी बोल्न जानिदैन त्यही भएर पठाइदियो ल अब यहाँ चाहिँ खाना खाने ठाउँ हो यहाँ खाना खानु पर्यो
हजुर सबभन्दा धेरै थुक्पा नै हो किनभने अरू खाजा पनि जान्छ नि त जानु त बनाएर पनि जान्छ तर त्यो सकिहाल्दैन भने फेरि त्यो बिग्रिन्छ क्या अमिलो
Food is no more cooked in firewood like in the past, despite LP gas cylinders arriving either on humans' back or the beasts of burdens. Our first day trek concludes at Phakding, a small hamlet at an altitude of 2610 meters. Almost all trekkers lodge here on the first day to acclimatize themselves for higher elevations. The place has amenities for travelers at par with an urban town, except roads and infrastructures.
यहाँ यो फलामको चिप्नी नभएको त गरै हुँदैन सर यहाँ त फलामको चिप्नी भएन भने त जाडोले मर्ने
As the dawn breaks, Ram emerges from his overnight elopement for lodging.
अब जाने होला सर उकालो यो अलिक सपना बिग्रियो अनि राम्रो सुत्यो सपनामा त खै कस्तो अचम्मक सपना देख्यो सपनामा चाहिँ बुढी चाहिँ अर्कैसँग गाह्रो देखेको खै के कुरामा चाहिँ डिस्केस भएको जस्तो भयो अनि त्यहाँ भएर चाहिँ कपडा सपडा प्याक गरेर हिँडेको सपना देखेँ के गर्न सकिन्छ खै कहिले के गर्ने हो मान्छे बुढी राम्रो छ सपना चाहिँ त्यस्तो देखेँ कस्तो अचम्म लाग्यो बुढी केही मभन्दा ठुलो छ मभन्दा त राम्री पनि छ ठुलो पनि छ त्यस्तो सपना देख्दा चाहिँ कुनै खेर चाहिँ अब डर पनि लाग्छ क्या बा पछि अब छोडेर हिँडिने हो कि आफूसँग केही नभएपछि त होइन बा अब हिँडिने हो कि जस्तो पनि लाग्छ यो सागो हो यो सागो चाहिँ काठको बनाएको यो बर्खामा ठुलो पानी आउँछ ठुलो खोला हुँदाखेरि त बगाएर लगिहाल्छ फेरि बनाउँछ यो चाहिँ पारी घाँस दाउराको लागि बनाउँछ
The Kumbh region has more than a dozen suspension and concrete bridges to safely cross the Dudh Kosi, meaning milk white Kosi, and its tributaries. As we continue our steep climb towards Namche Bazaar, we pass through freshly felled pine trees.
यो चाहिँ घरको लागि काठ काटेको हो यो घरको काठ काट्दाखेरि चाहिँ यो निस्केको दाउरा हो सर यो दाउरा अब सधैँभरि फुल्दैन कुनै बेला फुल्दाखेरि चाहिँ काट्यो
Only permitted numbers are cut every year, while the locals do not forget to grow pine saplings in their backyard to replace the cut ones. This is the entry point of Sagarmatha National Park, a buffer zone guarded by Nepal Army. The small hamlet of around 200 houses is no less than a modern town as we venture around the next morning with Ram. We not only discover Ram's free-of-cost night laws, but also a secret tavern where porters gather to gamble.
टुरिस्ट आएन भने त अब
Nepal's Election Commission ramps up preparation work, seeks public input on draft code of conduct. Kerung border closure hits Nepali businesses for the 5th month. Nearly 200 containers stranded as trade halts. US dollar hits historic high against Nepali rupee as global market fluctuations and geopolitical tensions drive surge. Fresh diplomatic talks resume in Geneva over Ukraine war peace plan. US-backed peace proposal sparks debate. COP30 ends without fossil fuel deal amid global tensions and mass protests. And Nepal finishes runner-up in the inaugural Blind Women's T20 World Cup after a hard-fought final against India. Hello there, I'm Shivani Thapa-Bosnath and this is NTV World News Hour. We're coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 as NSA. Now the news in detail. Nepal is stepping up preparations for its upcoming parliamentary elections. The Home Ministry is procuring new vehicles for all 3 national security agencies after many were damaged during last month's Gen Z protest, with funding for over 260 police vehicles already approved. Meanwhile, 449 police stations damaged in the unrest are back in operation. The Election Commission has released a draft code of conduct tightening rules on asset declarations and banning the use of government offices and party symbols for campaigning, and is now seeking public and political feedback ahead of nominations opening January 24th with voting scheduled for March 5. Nepali businesses are facing severe disruptions as the Kerung border with China remains closed for a 5th consecutive month. The closure followed flooding that destroyed a key bridge at the Nepal-China crossing in Rasua on 8th of July, halting the movement of goods. Nearly 200 containers of festival merchandise, including clothing, electronics and cosmetics, remain stranded. Traders say alternative routes like Tatopani and Corolla are unreliable and costly, while custom officials report only 30 to 35 containers entering daily. Nepal is now negotiating with Chinese authorities to restore trade, with business leaders warning that reopening Kerung is crucial to stabilizing imports and easing economic strain. The US dollar has surged to a historic high against the Nepali rupee, with buying rates at 142.88 and selling at 143.48. Nepal Rashtra Bank officials point to global market fluctuations and geopolitical tensions, including India-US trade strains, as key factors. Nepal's currency has been pegged to the Indian rupee since 1960, with periodic adjustments over the decades. Experts say it may be time to renew or review the peg to reflect current economic conditions and maintain stability. More on this in our cover story tonight. For now, making the international headliners is the Ukraine peace deal. US President Donald Trump has accused Ukraine's leaders of showing zero gratitude for American efforts to broker an end to the war, sending tensions soaring as peace talks continue in Geneva. Earlier, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said there is an understanding that a US proposal peace plan could take Ukraine's national interest into account. Delegations from the US, Ukraine and European allies remain in discussions, but sources say the previously faint sense of hope has faded. European leaders have criticized the 28-point plan, describing it as heavily favorable to Russia. The COP30 climate summit in Belém wrapped up without a deal on a global fossil fuel phase-out, as major producers including China, Russia, Saudi Arabia and Iran blocked the proposal. More than 80 countries had pushed for a clear exit from oil, gas and coal. Brazil's President Lula da Silva called the outcome a victory for multilateralism, while Colombia and the European Union expressed strong disappointment, briefly halting the closing session amid tense exchanges. The final declaration emphasizes voluntary climatic action and calls for tripling adaptation funding for developing countries by 2035. The summit also witnessed mass demonstrations, record indigenous participation, and a pavilion fire that forced evacuations, though the cause remains unknown. Back home, Nepal finished as the first runner-up in the inaugural Blind Women's T20 World Cup after a competitive final against India in Colombo. Batting first, Nepal set a target of 114, with Sarita Ghimire scoring 35. India chased it in 12 overs, led by Fula Soren's 44. The match used a special plastic ball with bearings to aid visually impaired players. 6 nations took part, with each team fielding 4 completely blind players, marking a major milestone for the growth of blind cricket globally. COP30 has wrapped up in Brazil without a deal on phasing out fossil fuels, sparking both frustration and praise from delegates. Stay with us after the short break as we bring you voices from inside the summit and the massive protest that took over Belém streets in our issue of the day. On the side, we head straight to our issue of the day. The COP30 climate summit in Belém concluded without an agreement on a global roadmap to phase out fossil fuels. More than 80 nations pushed for a clear exit from oil, gas and coal, but major producers including China, Russia, Saudi Arabia and Iran blocked the proposal. Brazil's President Lula da Silva called the outcome a win for multilateralism, while Colombian and European Union expressed disappointment. The final declaration emphasizes voluntary climate action and plans to triple adaptation funding for developing nations by the year 2035. The summit also saw record indigenous participation, mass demonstrations, and a fire in the pavilion area that forced evacuations, though its cause remains unknown. COP30 climate talks in Brazil ended without a breakthrough as nations remained deadlocked over a fossil fuel phase-out. The European Union clashed with oil-producing and emerging countries, with French Ecological Transition Minister Monique Barbutt saying negotiations were going nowhere so far. Saudi Arabia, Russia, India and other emerging economies resisted language on phasing out coal, oil and gas. Meanwhile, developing nations pushed for a many-fold increase in climate finance. EU diplomats described themselves as isolated and feared being blamed if talks collapsed, highlighting deep divisions just days before the summit's scheduled close.
The cup of the truth cannot support an outcome that ignores science. According to the IPCC, nearly 75% of global CO2 emissions come from fossil fuels. There is no mitigation if we cannot discuss transitioning away from fossil fuels with means of implementation in a just, orderly, and equitable manner.
We must ask ourselves, how are we helping the most vulnerable if this is the quality of the outcomes we call ambition? What message does it send when a process builds to elevate our needs ends by diminishing expert work and overlooking the realities of those on the front lines?
We engaged quite constructively in the huddle with our colleagues who had concerns with regards to the two decisions that had been gavelled, particularly the mitigation work program as well as the global goal and adaptation. And it was our understanding from the huddle that the work would continue in Bonn in accordance with the decisions that have already been taken in those decisions that have been gavelled with no additions, and that the objections or reservations would simply be noted in the meeting report.
While some delegates expressed frustration over stalled agreements, others welcomed the COP20 summit as a valuable platform for dialogue and cooperation. Let's listen to what other attending delegates had to say.
With the spirit of the Mutirão, we will convene high-level dialogues, gathering key international organizations, governments from both producing and consuming countries, industry, workers, scholars, civil society, and will report back to the COP. We will also benefit from the first international conference for the phase-out of fossil fuels, scheduled to take place in April in Colombia.
So Saudi Arabia is happy, probably India, China can live with it, but this is not acceptable for Europe. This should not be acceptable for Europe. It's too weak on mitigation, there's nothing on tough, so there's nothing on transitioning away from fossil fuels. On adaptation, I think the language can also still be improved. And I would say still the deal can be made with some negotiations on better tax on adaptation and then more on mitigation and on transitioning away fossil fuels. A deal is possible. If it stays like this, I would say no deal.
I believe that there were important steps forward at this COP. More than 190 countries have recommitted to the Paris Agreement, have recommitted to seeking to keep global warming to 1.5 degrees. We are seeing the launch of the roadmap on the transition away from fossil fuels. I would have liked it in the agreement, but it wasn't possible to have it in the agreement. These are always painful, difficult, frustrating processes, but the world is moving forward, and that's really important.
Climate change needs more battling, more action, more delivery. And that's why we've been pushing for more. Not because the EU needs more, because the world needs more. And yet, if you see what is on the table, we do think that we should support it.
There are 4 points that we need to discuss, and we are going to break in small groups. Adaptation, financing, NDCs, and the roads to the phasing out of fossil fuels.
We will fight for it, a responsible agreement that can help the people of this planet looking into a future where emissions will go down. So we will continue to negotiate, and it's early days still. So
we appreciate the COP presidency for invoking the spirit of Mutirão, as demonstrated especially in the last few days, for ensuring that all parties are consulted and a delicate balance is achieved on issues with some parties holding extreme positions. As a corp of truth and a corp of implementation, we cannot leave this room without an outcome.
Those are voices of national participants and delegates from inside the COP30 summit arena. Meanwhile, in the streets of Belém of Brazil, tens of thousands of people took to protest for the very first large-scale protest at the UN Climate Summit in years. Indigenous leaders and activists marched under the scaring sun, chanting, singing and carrying symbolic coffins marked coal, oil and gas to demand action on climate change. The Great People's March highlighted concerns over deforestation, corporate exploitation and insufficient indigenous representation at COP30. Organizers estimated some 50,000 participants who dispersed peacefully after a 4.5-kilometer march. And inside the summit, COP30 President Andre Correa de Lago acknowledged stalled negotiations with countries divided over finance for developing nations and a proposed roadmap to phase out fossil fuels. The US dollar has surged to an all-time high against the Nepali rupee, raising concerns for businesses and households across the country. Stay with us as we break down the decade-long trends and what this record spike means for Nepal's economy after the short break. You're with NTV World News Hour and it's time for the cover story of the night. On Sunday, the US dollar hit a historic all-time high against the Nepali rupee, sending ripples across the country's markets and households. What factors drove this unprecedented surge and how could it affect imports, remittances and daily life? Virat Anupam speaks to economic experts to break down the causes and implications of this record-breaking currency movement.
On November 23, Nepal saw the historic hike in exchange value of American dollar. On this day, Nepal bought a dollar in 142.88 rupees and sold in 143.48 rupees. Official from Nepal Rashtra Bank, the Central Bank of Nepal said it was a result of international market fluctuations. Nepal currently holds healthy foreign currency reserves. The experts cite India-US trade tensions complemented by geopolitical and geo-economic reasons for the current strengthening of the US dollar.
त्यो हुनुको कारण चाहिँ मुख्य भारतबाट चाहिँ हैन लगानी अलिकति बाहिर जाने अवस्था देखेको कारणले चाहिँ एकदम न्यून हुन गएको देखिन्छ हैन र मुख्य कारण चाहिँ अब अहिलेको चाहिँ रिसेन्ट चाहिँ यो नै हो ट्रेड टेन्सन र यो जियोपोलिटिकल अनसर्टेनिटी हैन यो दुईटा कारणलाई चाहिँ हामीले मुख्य रूपमा लिन सक्छौं.
Since April 13, 1960, Nepal has pegged its currency to Indian rupees. That year, Nepal bought 100 Indian rupees in 159.75 rupees and sold in 160 rupees. This monetary pegging by then Finance Minister Suvarna Shamsher was a result of Nepal's desire to have stable currency value with its most vital neighbor for national and international trade and transit. The pegging, however, is not constant in value. Pegging rate was adjusted again and again for 8 more times in 1966, 1967, 1971, 1978, 1985, 1986, 1991 and 1993. For over 3 decades, Nepal and India haven't adjusted the pegging rate.
Nepali currency international acceptability Indian currency को नेपालको तुलनामा राम्रो भएका कारणले पनि त्यसरी पेग गरिएको हो र पेग गरिएको राम्रै हो तर के भने कहिलेकाहीँ हाम्रो मार्केट सिचुएसन हेरेर हामीले रियल एक्सचेन्ज रेट एप्रिसिएसन भयो भनेदेखि अथवा रियल एक्सचेन्ज रेट डिप्रिसिएसन वा एप्रिसिएसन जे हुन्छ त्यसको आधारमा बीचबीचमा इन्डिया र नेपालको एक्सचेन्ज रेटलाई रिभाइभ गर्न सकिन्छ तर पद्धति यथावत राखेर.
As said by expert, Nepal and India need to carry out periodic review for pegging based on the latest monetary situations. With camera person Rasila Shrestha, Virat Anupam reporting for Public Service Broadcasting, NTV World, Kathmandu.
Over the past decade, the US dollar has steadily climbed against the Nepali rupee, rising from around 98 rupees in 2014 to 142 rupees in 2024, reflecting global economic shifts and Nepal's dependence on imports. Here's a close look.
The US dollar has steadily strengthened against the Nepali rupee, moving from the Nepali rupee 98 to 100 range in 2014 to roughly 142 to 143 in 2024. This long-term rise reflects global economic cycles, India's currency performance, and Nepal's dependence on imports priced in the US dollar. Because the Nepali rupee is pegged to the Indian rupee 1 equals to 1.6, much of this decade-long movement is tied to the changing value of the Indian rupee against the US dollar. When the Indian rupee weakened due to global oil prices, inflation pressures, or capital outflows, the Nepali rupee followed the same downward trend. During the decade, the US dollar experienced major gains during key global events, from falling oil prices in 2016 to the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 and inflation-driven interest rate hikes in 2022 to 2023. Each of these shocks pushed investors into the dollar, pressuring emerging currencies like the Indian rupee and Nepali rupee. For Nepal, this decade of dollar strength has had mixed effects. Remittances grew in Nepali rupee value, helping household income. But import bills increased, raising fuel, goods and commodity prices. And trade deficits widened, putting pressure on domestic prices. As Nepal steps into the next economic cycle, the value of its currency will continue to depend heavily on India's global trade exposure, oil prices and global monetary policy.
Following this 10-year-long trend, we now try to understand how this record surge in US dollar is affecting daily life. For this, we hit the streets to hear what people have to say.
For us, first point is our purchasing cost become higher, and then for selling also become more challenge. Because the regular buyer, they are buying in one rate, and when we hike the price, then it will feel a little difficult to sell it.
I think for me it doesn't impact on my business, because a customer who will enter to my shop, if he buy in euros, we give in euros. We converted the Nepali currency into euros, so we take them like in euros, even the dollars, even everything. So then we deposit on the banks and we get money from there.
हामी व्यापारीहरुलाई चाहिँ डलरको भाउ बढेर चाहिँ घाटा नै भइराछ। अब पहिला थोरै बढी डलरको भाउ बढी आउँथ्यो भने अहिले चाहिँ कम आउँछ सामान बेच्दाखेरि।
हाम्रो डलर बढ्दाखेरि चाहिँ हामीले विदेश पढ्न जाँदाखेरि पनि धेरै पैसा तिर्नुपर्ने भयो, अनि यहाँनेर हामीले सामानहरु किन्दा ग्याजेट्सहरु किन्दाखेरि धेरै नै तिर्नुपर्ने हुने रहेछ। अनि अर्को एउटा कुरा चाहिँ हामी चाहिँ साइन्सको काम गर्ने भयौं, रिसर्चरहरु भयौं, हामीले किटहरु किन्दाखेरि पनि इन्डियाबाट इम्पोर्ट गर्नुपर्छ, सिङ्गापुरबाट इम्पोर्ट गर्नुपर्छ, त्यो चाहिँ डलर भावमा तिर्नुपर्छ के, अनि त्यो चाहिँ एकदमै बेसी बढेको छ अहिले आउने दिनहरुमा चाहिँ।
It's our aim to go and study abroad. So US basically, even if dollar or any other currency, if it increases, even if it's not good for Nepal, I think, but us, if we consider studying into abroad or going for job or something, so that will be beneficial for us because we send the remittance to Nepal ultimately. So I think it's good in that from that point of view. But then regarding Nepal solely or specifically, because we transfer a lot of goods to other countries as well, so but our resources are limited, so in consideration to that it's not so good. But then sending money from abroad to Nepal, I think the money increases after all.
Nepal's Home Ministry says it is moving ahead with the purchase of new vehicles for all three national security agencies, aiming to ensure a peaceful and fear-free environment for the upcoming parliamentary elections. Many essential vehicles were destroyed during the last month's Gen Z protest, and the replacement process is now in its final stage. The Finance Ministry has already approved funding for more than 260 vehicles for Nepal Police alone, with total procurement this year expected to exceed some 800 million rupees. Meanwhile, the government says 449 police officers damaged in the unrest are now back in operation, while repairs continue on remaining stations and on facilities belonging to the Armed Police Force and the National Investigation Department. Nepal's Election Commission has released a draft code of conduct for the upcoming parliamentary elections and is now seeking public and political feedback. The draft introduces stricter rules on transparency, requiring candidates to submit detailed asset declarations at the time of filing their nomination papers. Although public officials are already required to disclose their assets, many ministers have long failed to do so within the legal time frame. Under the new proposal, candidates' asset declarations will remain confidential until the election results are finalized and may be made public only with the consent of the winning candidate. The draft also bans the use of government institutions for campaign events and prohibits distributing or wearing clothes or accessories displaying party symbols. The Commission has sent the draft to political parties and published it online. According to the newly issued timeline, nominations will be filed on January 24 and voting will take place on 5th of March, beginning 7 a.m. to up to 5 p.m. Meanwhile, political parties in Nepal are filing applications with the Election Commission ahead of two major polls, the National Assembly election on January and House of Representatives election on March. The submission window closes on November 26, with 44 parties applying for the lower house so far and 9 for the upper house. The Commission says a draft election code of conduct has been published online for public feedback, which closes today. The final code will be issued in mid-January, while procurement and logistical preparations for both elections are already underway. In Nepal's southern plains, most specifically the Madhya province, preparations are underway for the historic Ram Janaki Vivaha festival, or the wedding ceremony, a week-long celebration rooted in the ancient culture of the Mithila. As festivities begin in Janakpur, the revered Lakshmi Narayan Mutt in nearby Matihani has started preparations for the traditional Matkor ritual held one day before the Vivaha Panchami. The annual festival features city processions, floral reenactments, and the symbolic Dhanush Yagya, all marking the legendary wedding of Lord Ram and Sita. According to tradition, soil for their sacred wedding altar was taken from Matihani, giving the site a deep cultural and spiritual significance. Child marriage remains widespread in Nepal's far western Koilali district, with hundreds of teenage girls giving birth each year, despite national laws setting the minimum marriage age at 20. Health officials warn that entrenched social norms, limited education, and poor access to healthcare continue to put young girls at risk. Rojina Rai brings you this story.
In Nepal, child marriage is long-standing culture that has been hindering girls' access to education and severely affecting their health and overall well-being. Child marriage is a criminal offense in Nepal, and the legal age for tying the knot is 20 years. However, this legal provision often remains only on paper. The 2021 census indicates that Sudur Paschim province of the country has alarming child marriage rate of 29.1%. Meanwhile, the Kailali Health Office reports 881 women gave birth before the age of 20 in just the first 7 months of the previous fiscal year, while 305 teenage girls delivered babies, highlighting the child marriage remains deeply entrenched due to lack of awareness and prevailing social norms. While 305 teenage girls delivered babies, highlighting that child marriage remains deeply entrenched due to lack of awareness and prevailing social norms. Data of the last 25 years show that Nepal has made a significant achievement, decreasing it by 58%. The prevalence of child marriage before the age of 18 among girls in Nepal was approximately 33% as of 2019 data, a decrease from 58% in 1994. More recent data from 2022 indicates a slight increase to around 35% of women aged 20 to 24 first married by age 18. But in Kailali, the number of teenage girls giving birth before the age of 20 is on the rise, and the traditional practice of home deliveries has yet to disappear. Medical experts warn premature pregnancy poses significant health risk for both mothers and infants.
आमालाई पर्ने असर भनेको चाहिँ अब छिटै विवाह भयो, छिटै बच्चा पाएपछि उहाँको क्यारियर अवरुद्ध हुने, अनि उहाँहरूको चाहिँ एउटा सेल्फ स्टिम भनौँ न आत्मबल कमजोर हुने, छिटै उमेरमा एउटा बच्चा पाउनुको मतलब उहाँले पछि फेरि धेरै बच्चा पाउन सक्ने, त्यसले गर्दा उहाँहरूको स्वास्थ्यमा जोखिम हुन सक्ने,
leading to increased incidences of severe health complications and mortality. The persistence of child marriage, teenage pregnancy, and home deliveries highlights gaps in public awareness, limited education, and inadequate access to healthcare services.
From tense Ukraine peace talks and G20 warnings on climate and global equity, to inspiring stories of war veterans, we will be bringing you the full updates from around the world. But first, a quick recap of the headliners this hour. Nepal's Election Commission ramps up preparation work, seeks public input on draft code of conduct. Kerung border closure hits Nepali businesses for the 5th month. Nearly 200 containers stranded as trade halts. US dollar hits historic high against Nepali rupee as global market fluctuations and geoeconomic tensions drive surge. Fresh diplomatic talks resume in Geneva over Ukraine war peace plan. US-backed peace proposal sparks debate. COP30 ends without fossil fuel deal amid global tensions and mass protest. And Nepal finishes runner-up in the inaugural Blind Women's T20 World Cup after hard-fought final against India. Fresh diplomatic talks are underway in Geneva on the future of the war in Ukraine, with delegations from United States, Ukraine, and European allies reviewing a 28-point peace proposal backed by US President Donald Trump. The plan, which Washington says was drafted with input from both Russia and Ukraine, has drawn sharp criticism from Ukraine's allies, with some senators calling it closer to a Russian wish list. President Zelensky stressed that Ukraine's national interest must be protected, while Trump accused Ukrainian leaders of showing zero gratitude for US efforts. European officials have raised concerns that the plan heavily favors Moscow. Negotiations are expected to continue in the coming days, with the proposal covering territorial arrangements, security guarantees, and economic measures, though many details remain undisclosed. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called on G20 leaders to show leadership and vision in making the global economy more inclusive, bridging the climate adaptation gap, and ending conflicts worldwide. Speaking to reporters at the G20 summit in Johannesburg, Guterres said the world's largest economies hold enormous influence to ease suffering and ensure economic growth is widely shared.
My message to G20 leaders over the next 2 days is simple. Now is the time for leadership and vision. Developed countries must keep their promises. As the world's largest economies, the G20 can hold enormous influence to ease suffering, ensure that economic growth is widely shared, and set out our world on a better, more peaceful course for the future. The theme of this year's meeting, Solidarity, Equality and Sustainability, points the way. Over the next 2 days, I will call on G20 members to use their leverage to lead the action we need. Africa must have a fair seat in every forum where decisions are made, from the board of international financial institutions to permanent seats in the United Nations Security Council and to other global bodies. And the G20 can help repair this historic injustice and drive reforms that give developing countries, and Africa in particular, a real voice in shaping global policies and make global economic governance more inclusive, representative, equitable, and effective in the years ahead.
At a rehabilitation center in Kiev, former soldier Dmytro Gorodinsky dances to the funky 1970s hit La Freak, learning to move again after losing his eyesight in a Russian drone attack 5 months ago. Like many newly blinded veterans, Gorodinsky faces challenges adjusting to daily life, from reading Braille to using his phone. For others, like Mykola Kazyuk and Vladislav Yashchenko, independence means mastering everyday tasks, from baking cupcakes to navigating public transport, despite sudden life-changing injuries. Ukraine's healthcare system, strained by war, is struggling to support the visually impaired. In Russia, environmental activism is growing increasingly risky. Irina Kurisheva, aged 62, returned to Moscow's Losiny Ostrov National Park to monitor construction of a highway months after being fined for protesting the project. The road, planned to ease congestion and access new housing, cuts through protected forest land, despite laws prohibiting such construction. Activists say authorities are bending regulations to favor developers, while dissenting voices face fines, arrests, or harsher penalties. Legal experts warn that environmental defenders are operating in an increasingly hostile environment, with decisions driven by regional authorities and little recourse through the courts. The 39th joint patrol by the Chinese and Vietnamese navies in Beibu Gulf concluded after 2 days at sea, covering over 330 nautical miles. Both navies deployed 2 ships each, including China's guided missile frigate Guangyan and Type 056A corvette Aba. The fleet patrolled along the maritime boundary, monitoring security at sea and in the air. On Thursday, crews conducted a joint search and rescue drill simulating fishing vessels in distress, enhancing coordination and emergency response in complex scenarios. Since signing the 2005 Joint Patrol Agreement, China and Vietnam have carried out 39 patrols, strengthening communication, deepening cooperation, and building strategic trust in maintaining maritime security in the Beibu Gulf. Lined up ahead of this short commercial break is the business news.
In Nepal, 2 government-run cheese factories in the eastern district of Ilam have shut down after the state-owned Dairy Development Corporation faced mounting financial pressures. Once key suppliers of hard cheese made from Himalayan highland milk, the two factories were unable to recover from declining sales during the COVID-19 pandemic. Their closure now threatens the livelihoods of local dairy farmers who depended on these facilities as a reliable market for their milk. The disruption reflects a broader global trend. Traditional dairy industries, especially in developing countries, are grappling with shifting consumer demand, supply chain pressures, and competition from private and international brands. Nepal's experience underscores how vulnerable small agricultural economies can be as the global dairy sector undergoes rapid change. Nepal's Path's 3rd district continues to host its Saturday Agricultural Market, a weekly gathering that has run unchanged for 30 years, where hundreds of farmers sell fresh local produce. Despite its long history and importance for rural livelihoods, the market has seen little improvement in infrastructure or facilities. Such weekly markets are common across rural Nepal, serving as vital economic and social hubs in regions where formal retail systems remain limited. The situation in Pasthar highlights how traditional marketplaces, much like in other developing countries, remain essential for farmers even as modernization efforts progress slowly. Nepal's stock market started the week on a strong footing, with the NEPSE index climbing nearly 40 points to close at 2,600.22. Turnover reached 6.3 billion Nepali rupees, which is nearly $49 million, as broad-based buying lifted nearly all sector indices except mutual funds, reflecting improving investor sentiment. Several companies hit their upper circuit limits, with a few exceptions posting the day's sharpest decline. Nearly 10 million units of shares of around 300 companies were traded worth over 6 billion Nepali rupees today. Nepali businesses are facing severe disruptions as the catering border with China remains closed for a 5th consecutive month. The shutdown began after flooding destroyed a key bridge at the Nepal-China crossing in Rasua on July 8, halting all movement of goods. As a result, nearly 200 containers of festival merchandise, clothing, electronics, cosmetics, and other supplies remain stranded at the border. Nepal is now in talks with Chinese authorities to restore smooth trade flows, while business leaders warn that reopening catering is essential to stabilizing imports and preventing further economic strain. Japan faces a potential loss of over 2 trillion yen in Chinese tourist spending amid escalating diplomatic tension with China, following Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's recent remarks on Taiwan. China's foreign ministry and its consulates in Japan have advised citizens to avoid travel to Japan, while airlines including China Southern, China Eastern, and Air China are offering refunds and rescheduling for flights through the end of December. Meanwhile, Japan's recently approved 21.3 trillion yen fiscal stimulus intended to boost the economy risks exacerbating inflation and weakening the yen, potentially slowing growth instead of supporting it. As long-term interest rates rise, economists caution that relying on government bonds to cover the spending gap may intensify economic challenges, compounding the effects of declining tourist revenue. Abu Dhabi has officially opened the Natural History Museum, Abu Dhabi, a 35,000 square meter institution that now stands as the largest of its kind in the Middle East. With a ticket price of around $19 for adults, the museum aims to drive significant tourist footfall while also serving as a hub for scientific research and education. With rare assets like a nearly complete T-Rex skeleton, a 25-meter blue whale, and a 7-billion-year-old meteorite, the museum's high-value scientific collections are expected to boost international visitor demand and support Abu Dhabi's broader strategy to grow its cultural tourism and research sectors.
Time now we switch to the sporting arena. Nepal finished as the first runner-up in the inaugural Blind Women's T20 World Cup after a competitive final against India in Colombo, Sri Lanka. Batting first, Nepal set a target of 114 runs for 5 wickets in the full 20 overs. India successfully chased the 115-run target in just 12 overs, ending at 117 for 3, led by Phula Soren's quick 44 off 27 balls. Nepal's Sarita Ghimire contributed a solid 35 runs from 38 deliveries. The match used a special plastic white ball with bearings inside, helping the blind batters track its movement. 6 nations, Nepal, India, Australia, Pakistan, Sri Lanka and the United States participated, with each team required to field 4 completely blind players among the 11. The tournament marks a major step forward for the visibility and growth of blind cricket on the global stage. The annual Hong Kong Cross Harbour Race took place yesterday, drawing hundreds of swimmers to the chilly waters between Wan Chai and Shim Sa Shui. Hong Kong team representatives claimed top honours, with Kit Sin winning the men's race 17 minutes 48 seconds and Nip Jitsin taking the women's title in 19 minutes 18 seconds. Olympic silver medalist and National Games champion Siobhan Hoge made her cross-harbour debut, finishing just 30 seconds behind Nip in second place. Despite strong waves and close competition, the event celebrated endurance, family participation and a return after last year's typhoon cancellation. And now the highs and lows, first from across Nepal and then the world. And before winding up, a quick recap of the headliners of the day. Nepal's Election Commission ramps up preparation work, seeks public input on draft code of conduct. Kerung border closure hits Nepali businesses for 5th month, nearly 200 containers stranded as trade halts. US dollar hits historic high against Nepali rupee as global market fluctuations and geopolitical tensions drive surge. Fresh diplomatic talks resume in Geneva over Ukraine war peace plan. US-backed peace proposal sparks debate. COP30 ends without fossil fuel deal amid global tensions and mass protest. And Nepal finishes runner-up in the inaugural Blind Women's T20 World Cup after hard-fought final against India. And that's all from NTV World News Hour. Do join us across our social handles. Also, log into for more updates and news. Log into nepaltelevision.com. Well, I'm Shivani Thapa Bosnet. That's it for now. Goodbye.